Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Fight Night Rising. My name is Khroen, and alongside me is Boopasaurus. Boop, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. Have my coffee and I'm ready to go. This is a really fun lobby today, so I'm stoked to get going.
Definitely, there's a lot of good players, and without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce them here. Of course, got our returning champion, a common quail, Noster 11 as well, Zan Syed, and then we have WT Padrino, LastKardax back in it after Common Quail gave that shout out, so that'll be interesting. TTV Puttyx, Davidas 202, and Sphinx rounding things out here.
I'm so many different play styles in this particular lobby. You know what I mean? We have aggressive players, we have patient players, we have kale players, we have we have rollers, we have everything. We have everything here. I mean, this is. This is one of those lobbies that literally could go any direction because yeah, someone like Noster has a lot of history, right, and success, but in particular lobbies, we can see people like that struggle. So I am very excited to see how this is going to end by the end of our fourth lobby because I could not tell you who I think is going to take this today.
Yeah, it's going to be close. A lot of strong players here. And of course, they're competing for their share of the rising prize pool, that $200 per usual, 100 of which will go to first place. Second place earns 50, and third and fourth place will earn $25 apiece. But only the top three will be invited back for next week. But just talking about those players again, Boop. There's Noster it was competing in the NA regional finals. They made it to day three. Unfortunately, didn't make it past that. They were a few places off, but they have that experience there. And obviously, if they're here at Fight Night, they're still motivated to play, motivated to compete. And all these players, of course, if you're a competitive TFT player or aspire to be, you're going to be watching those big competitions, and you're going to be trying to, maybe take some notes, emulate the play styles. So maybe we'll see a bit of kind of like copying of what works for the top players in North America because, hey, they're there for a reason, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it totally happened the last time Sphinx was here. Actually, maybe it may have been a qualifier, but there was a day where Sphinx started a day out with a Tryndamere carry, and he was the only one. Got tier 3 Tryndamere, won the lobby, and then by lobby 3, 5 people were going Tryndamere at that time. So some of that mimicry can happen because by the third lobby, you're already understanding patterns, you're understanding certain preferences for players, and while a Tryndamere comp on this lobby is the strongest, when it's being contested, a completely new comp will come out and show itself. Just kind of like how I feel like every time Talon becomes popular again, it's because Kale is good or something, right? I
Yeah,
think we're in kind of still that rock, paper, scissors shenaniganery when it comes to some of these comps right now, because honestly, it's pretty flexible.
exactly. Yeah, and it's because it's pretty flexible, exactly like you said, that the rock paper scissors meta does develop. There's so many things that are viable that there's going to be a counter to some of them. So if one kind of increases popularity just a bit more, then incentivizes other players to try to counter it, so on
Yep.
and so forth. I'm curious if anyone does come out not necessarily with new styles today, but the more unorthodox styles. And what comes to the top of my head when talking about that is Aegon actually like just randomly makes some reroll compositions work, like even brand rerolling for mages, which not a lot of players will do. We've talked about the Tristana reroll before, and that's still going to be good in this meta. Speaking of it, Sphinx has a pair of Tristanas right now, so we might see that. But Trist super super good, but I'm not sure if anyone's going to exactly be able to emulate the style that Aegon really does it in because he goes down to like 30 HP by wolves sometimes and just goes, all in with his money and somehow just makes it work. Hard playstyle to emulate, but Slayers I think will still be pretty dominant here today.
I was actually talking to a friend about like a play style because something I actually really enjoy talking to you about, even we talk about it a lot on cast, is the difference between the top four and first or eighth style,
Yep.
right? And I like a top four style because first or eighth is going to cause wrinkles. You know, like I
Yeah.
can't be having that right now. I'm too young. So I prefer the top four style, but in tournament play, that first or eighth is going to be how you like get the the record for the day or get
Yeah.
that top three. You could. I have seen people win a fight night lobby without winning an actual lobby because of their consistency.
Hmm.
Some of like the top 4 players that I think the Jirachi is the one here on Fight Night that they are probably the most consistent with that. Ali from other Fight Nights as well. Very big. They build up a huge HP lead. They know they're not going to win the lobby, but hopefully that HP lead is enough to secure that top 4. It's been working for the Jirachi, doing pretty good on the qualifier. So
Yeah.
I wonder if what kind of mixture of team comps we're going to see, because we have Cultist going on right now, which is always a good opening, but we have the Keeper to go along with it, which could go into, the Kennen 3. We have the Rod, so we could potentially make the Spark for it. But a lot of things now are about, this is what I have now, what could I have later? And if you are really set in your ways, you got to make sure that the read on the lobby is accurate, or else you're just going to get bonked.
Definitely, and that's why we, scout a bunch of times throughout the whole game. You got to be on top of it, as well as just knowing what you're going to pivot into, what items, what items are going to be leading you into as well. Because we see the 2 rods and the vest here for Padrino, and sure, that could be a locker right now, which is fine. But if you're going keepers and end up committing to keepers, lockets are pretty useless because that's just way too many shields at that point. So we'll see what they do end up going. Right now, though, this composition is very, very strong. This is like a win streak all the way through stage 2, kind of strong, with these synergies at least. The only reason it could fall is maybe due to an item diff there, because when scouting, they did see a Vladimir chosen with an Ionic Spark, and that's pretty strong. That slam is like, I want to be strong in the early game. Going up against Sphinx, however, who does have that Tristana with some sharpshooters in the backline.
We do have the brand too in the backline. So basically, you're kind of just playing best on board. If you are going keepers, that's gonna be how you play it most of the time, right? They work with a lot of different things. The question is how many keepers you want, right? Do you want the 2? Do you want the 4? Are you going to commit to the 6? Say you have that Kennen 3, which direction are you going to go completely? And so
Yep.
that's like the most intriguing thing about this particular comp, because we could potentially, they have the cultist chosen. If the game kind of tells you to play a cultist comp for as long as possible, sometimes that's what you got to do. The game tells you how to play sometimes, and it's okay to listen.
Definitely. Sometimes the game really just plays itself, and that is okay. If the game gives you a bunch of cultists, you can go 6 cultists, pivot out of it. That's a play style that works for a lot of players here. ACommonQuail actually has Kennen 2 already on 2-3. That popped up on the right-hand side there. So that's a very, very strong power
Yeah.
play. We will be moving on, however, to Zan Syed for now, with some brawlers, with the Yasuo. Got a couple duelists, I believe. Yeah, with that Jax as well. Could sell the 10 gold or pre-level to level 5 with the Shyvana pickup. It makes me think it wants to be pre-level, and yes, that does come through. So now, of course, the next shop at level 5 will be at level 5, excuse me. So a better chance of rolling, say, a 3 cost chosen or just some 4 cost units.
So a little bit of history from last week. Zan worked hard to get into that top 3.
Oh yeah.
Worked very hard. It was probably the most difficult path to the top 3 of that particular set of players. So hopefully today he actually has a little bit of a easier time. Maybe he's going to be able to high roll. Like, he never really had that top comp and was really battling for 3rds and 4ths a lot last week, which in my opinion is arguably one of the harder things to do over 4 lobbies, right? That's
Yeah.
stressful. But we got there through, I think he one-tricked Kale.
Yeah, I think so too as well. And just picking
Yeah.
up the bow right now, I think it's going to be leaning towards that. It could be a Runeans right now, but yeah, I think Sensei like barely scraped in some like top 4s or top 3s. Like they got very, very low pretty early on, and I think they had like a rough game 1. But yeah, it was a very, very hard fought
He was the
spot
one
or into
with
the top 3.
he split the double Nikos. He wanted to two-star 2 5-cost units instead of tier 3ing the Shyvana.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so those are the types of things that we noticed with Zan was a little slow on the uptake when it comes to commitment on strategy, right? The intention wasn't quite there. Now that we're here for a week and maybe some of those nerves are gone, we might actually see some cleaner play. And the fact that we already got top 3 shows that it's only up from here. The other thing is wherever he's at right now is a sick looking place. Anyway, like, it's impeccably clean. Love the doors. Anyway, it's a pretty sick place to be in, it looks like. But we have a good front line here. We've got the Hurricane on the Shyvana, so we're pretty open right now, but we're not open to winning against the ACommonQuail, who is
No.
probably one of the faster starters, early game players that we have in the lobby right now.
Yeah, and the Kennen too definitely goes to show. I mean, sometimes you high roll the early game a little bit. Common Quill isn't quite 100 HP on the win streak, but 98 is going to be good enough for Zan Syed there. They're on a 4 loss streak at 80 HP, even though they've slammed items, even though their synergies are pretty decent. They don't have 4 brawlers in line, of course, but with this Shyvana pair now being presented in the shop, I wouldn't be surprised to actually see a committal to brawlers. They're probably unlikely to win a lobby, but they do very much get you that top 4, those consistent placements that Zan Syed does like to play for, it seems.
So I wonder, like, a lot of people have come up to me and been like, "You guys say that this is the top 4 comp, but yesterday I won with it. What's the deal?" I'm sorry, everyone, for the Seinfeld impression, but
I like
the
that.
thank you. The deal is that sometimes lobbies just aren't top heavy, right?
Yeah.
And your particular lobby was friendly to brawlers, which has one of the more consistent fall offs in the late game. It's not like the ceiling's going to drop out from under you. Set can win around in whatever comp he's in based
Yeah.
on his itemization. So it's not over, but you can pretty much guarantee a top 4 if you hit your 8 brawlers.
Yep.
Winning, though, is going to be a little different because you've got things like Lee Sin to worry about, where he doesn't really care about HP. You've got things like stacked, best in slot KL, which is going to shred the HP with executioners. And sometimes the brawlers just don't attack quick enough to maintain themselves in the late game, because as the rounds get shorter, brawlers get weaker, and the longest rounds are around like 3-1 to 4-1, and so
Yep.
that's where you're going to be able to develop most of your lead. So if you're wondering why you've won with brawlers in the past, it's probably because maybe it was a not attack damage heavy situation. You can do well against things like Fabled, if that's going to be what you're going to be playing, and of course that can take a lobby win if it's set to with best in slot items and the lobby's friendly. So
Sure.
you can win, just like with Kennen, right? But you're most likely going to get a top 4.
Yeah. And it does depend on the pacing of the game entirely. It depends on how much HP you preserve, at what point you hit your Shyvana 3 if you're going for that. Because, if you're full well ahead the rest of the lobby and you accelerate the pace of the game,
Yep.
other people are going to be a lot pressured a lot more to roll down their gold, maybe not go level 9 or level 8 as quickly as they normally would have. And then you can kind of just like bully the lobby at that point.
Yeah.
So those dynamics certainly change that game as well and can lead into some first place. And 6 brawlers here for Zan Syed. They're at 78 HP on a 5-loss streak, which is really, really good HP number to be at
Yeah.
with those 5 losses. Now they've gotten their Hand of Justice as well for the Shyvana, paired with the Runan's Hurricane, and they have an extra bow to either go another Runan's or a Rage Blade. Both are going to be fantastic items. Probably going to want the Rage Blade over the Runan's, but both can definitely function.
All right, so we saw our first Viger, so let's talk about, I think, the flavor of the week right now, which are mages.
Yeah.
Tons of mage play over the qualifiers, from what I remember.
Oh, yeah.
Not a lot in the lobby right now. This potentially could get that way. I would not call this a mage comp by any sense
Nah.
of the word, but there are mages here, so let's talk about it. So what was the deal? I did it again. What's the deal of the mage comp where, was it just the bug fix on Viger coming back and helping out? Because it was mega popular this weekend, and I gained 2 straight up divisions just playing one trick and mages. My friend did, I think, 9 top 4s in a row with the comp 2 days ago. What's making it so strong right now?
I think definitely. I mean, if you think about mages, got to think about Aurelion Soul, right? Or the reroll mages as well. Like Annie 3 will basically feels like she never dies. That's so much frontline, then your Aurelion Soul gets to live forever. But the Aurelion Soul, actually, people are learning how to position that unit a bit better. Say you put your Aurelion Soul in the back corner and he ults, across the map. He's not going to be hitting as many units as say he's frontlined. And if you have a GA for Aurelion Soul, is going to hit basically the vast majority of the enemy composition's front line, as well as still hitting their back line. Just the angle is a bit better. I wish I can kind of draw an example on the screen right now to illustrate that, but
We'll
hopefully
see it
you understand what
probably.
I'm saying. Yeah, if we do see some Aurelion Souls with GAs, they very well can be frontlined here. Mages, if you reroll as well, like I was alluding to earlier with Aegon, you can make that work with a Twisted Fate and Brand carries as well. They do fall off, decently well. Or at least TF does. Brand, honestly, Brand can still carry games in the end game. He's very, very surprising, honestly, of a unit, in my opinion, and just how well he can scale into that end game. I'm not seeing it here from Noster, however. I mean, there are mages on the board, but it looks like it's going to be some form of attack damage composition, maybe a Slayer. We'll see, though.
What's really cool about where we're at right now in terms of meta, and we can take the Slayer composition that Noster might be going into as an example too. There are a lot more comps now that, used to, hey, you play this comp, this is your carry, right? But now you can actually pick and choose between two in a lot of comps, right? So on the mage version, you can go the reroll route, put your jeweled gauntlets and stuff on your brand, and push the early game, develop that advantage, and see what the lobby is going to look like at like 5-1, right? Because if you get a brand 3 TF3, you're going to make it to 5-1 most likely. Or you're going to play it a little slower. You're going to wait for your chosen so you can save money. You're probably going to lose streak, hit your ASOL, best slot items, stabilize at 9 HP and potentially win that lobby, right? They're both mage comps and both can work well. Both can top 4, but different kinds of players I think are going to be attracted to different versions of that. As we're actually moving into the more mage-oriented comp right now because of the large rod and the cloak. I mean, we're very close to best of slot items for that champ at the moment.
Yeah, that Aurelion Soul on the carousel gave Noster a lot of solid direction there. And yeah, I thought the Hodge maybe wouldn't be committed onto the Aurelion Soul, but it's perfectly fine too. This is the 3 items that are gonna, if Noster sticks Aurelion Soul, they're gonna just be on him the whole time. Maybe some item removers happen later on from Lucky Lantern, but we'll see that, I suppose, in stage 4. Sejuani actually gets mana reaved by the Elise, so she won't be able to cast. However, Aurelion Soul just gonna be decimating the majority of the team. Galio, though, gonna be a bit tankier. And now the Galio 6 cultist is surely gonna win this 1v1.
Mama Galio taking putting the little Galio into the corner there.
Yeah.
Forgot to do their chores. But actually, this was a really good example of what you were just talking about. So we don't have a telestrator, but if you want to bring your eyes just real quick to this ASOL when we get back there, if it has the GA, if it was placed in the front row left corner on the very left hex, it would have hit every single person on that side of the board. But the cool thing about it is if everyone was on the same side as that ASOL, it would still hit more people. So the frontlining ASOL, while riskier, you are going to need to build defensively into it. You are actually potentially going to be doing more damage over time versus just the fast damage in the corners with a bunch of damage items. As we are going over to Putty, and we're right in the middle of the pack, another cultist player here.
Yep. Another cultist player, 6 cultist here. Sivir actually as well being itemized for now. It seems as though Sivir has kind of fallen off a lot of people's preference list recently after the nerf. And I mean, the nerf was only 50 AD on her ultimate, goes from 400 down to 350 at tier 3. But I think Sivir is kind of, losing more steam than I think is probably necessary in this meta right now. Sure, everyone's eyes are on Slayers, and now with Flavor of the Week kind of on mages now too. But Sivir can still be shown some love here, I think, especially with Last Whisper as the last item here. Just keep her with the GA Ruinan's Last Whisper.
Have you tried Mage Sivir yet?
Mage Sivir? No, I haven't actually.
It double stacks the attack damage.
Yeah.
So it totally works, just like the Mage Olaf. So there are points where that's not a meme, right? Because it works on Shyvana, yes, because of the HP, but the Mage Sivir, the thing about Sivir is if you are making her your carry, that double attack damage, while you're going to be missing that damage early on in your regular basic attacks, is going to overcome that damage a little bit later on. So the Last Whispers are going to be hitting harder, but only until that ult. So that's the risk. But you will ult twice, and I believe the attack speed will also increase as well. So just because someone doesn't have mana, or someone doesn't necessarily have like a casting ult like a Viger, doesn't mean Mage Cap won't work. So we've seen Mage Cap Olaf, we've seen Mage Cap Swain a lot more.
Oh yeah.
Mage Cap Swain in a Mage comp is nutty good.
Yeah,
And
very,
so
very good. Especially if it's Siphoner in there, like, oh.
exactly. And so, yeah, that's actually, we could potentially see that. Say Putty gets a spat. Like there's definitely an option with that tier there, but could also be saving that tier for completing that Hodge a little later on.
Yeah. Once again, Sejuani gets Mana Raved and cannot cast. It's 6 cultists versus 6 cultists in this fight. And Sivir is going to get taken out by the Callista. So it looks like, oh, actually, it could go either way depending on the... No, okay. It is going to go the way of Putty there for win streak right now. And we have a pair of Tryndamirs on the bench. If that's found to be tier 2, I think once we go to the carousel, get perhaps that last whisper, which I think is why Putty did not combine that tier and glove to be a Hodge, then we can start itemizing the Tryndamere and pivoting to, say, warlords, slayers, and things of the like there.
The Bash Brothers Redux, the
Yeah.
Tryndamere Olaf combination there, that can be absolutely brutal. Lobby winning combination a lot of the time. As we're gonna be looking at Putty
Hey,
still
that's
get
a mage.
yeah,
Shyvana.
Mage Savannah. Okay, so those hops are great because my Shyvanas will hop into the other team, into the back line, and immediately die. It is a little bit risky. And, high-level TFT players tend to avoid that risk, but I guess the value from the Shyvana is enough of a reward to go for it.
Yeah, honestly, the Shyvana hops, I think, while they didn't go into the enemy lines, they did also clump up with the rest of the team, and so Galio got a massive slam when he landed from Putty. So maybe the Shyvana should have just cut into like the other side instead, but hey, that's Shyvana AI for you right there, so not going to be good. It still can't, like May Shyvana could still win a lobby if you get a good, nice third item on her.
Yeah.
She can definitely do a lot of work because that HP that she'll get at that point with 8 brawler and mage is so insane. Burning through that takes a long time.
All right, Davidas now. Looking at some keepers, we are going the 4 keeper direction. We have some intriguing items on that Irelia. Was probably some early slams. It looks like Davidas here is just get an item, slam the item type of player, which for the early game totally works. But these particular items are a little low roll. 1,
There's
2,
4
3,
belts.
4. Yeah, that's what I was counting. I was like,
yeah.
this poor guy has 4 belts on his side. At least the Hodge is really nice on the Xayah, as well as the Trap Claw, actually, with things like Kennen and Kale, and just CC being a little bit more prevalent than it has been in the past. Those Trap Claws finding a little bit more value than in the past, and we'll see Davidas win most likely. Oh, the GA has not been popped, so I think this is actually going to be the Kindred. Yep.
Yeah, the feathers came back a bit too soon there, unfortunately. And Davidas will lose that round. Already has an Azir, however, on level 7. That's going to be huge if you're committing to keepers. You can get 6 keeper online a lot easier now, but still are kind of low HP. Need to get to level 8. Replace the Irelia as well. We grabbed a Rod here from Morellas and the Kennen. That's beautiful, but it's so far away from having a GA on the Kennen as well, which is also so important. I mean, you can get away with not having GA Kennen if you either have a couple other tankier items on him or get him to tier 3, but still, this is definitely not optimal here. Davidas not only slammed items to try to mitigate the bad item RNG, but it didn't even do that well, honestly, because still being at 46 right now, Davidas is doing a good job at saving gold up, so they're going to be able to get to level 8 and roll down and probably find a strong composition at that point. It's just how much HP can you actually save in these next 2 rounds, because if you go into stage 5 being like, sub 30, that's rough to come back from.
We've seen that with Fortune players, right? And so they just don't have enough HP sometimes, and so they land in a counter matchup, and they just don't have the mulligan available to them. And so Davidas now, I like the positioning on the Xayah. I think a lot of people in some lower ranks will put the Xayah in the backline because it just feels like it's supposed to be that way. But LastKardax is going to be running this Last Whisper, i.e. RFC Tryndamere, which it looked like could have just been the only unit on the field and would have been just fine during that round. The Tryndamere is how do you say this? Strong?
Yeah,
Yeah,
strong is
yeah.
the word that applies there. It looks like LastKardax is running Fortune probably and cashed out because they're level 8 with a lot of gold, and they have 2 Nikos and that Tryndamere Chosen with like a
He likes to make
Darius
fortune
fully
too.
itemized. Yeah, it probably was that. But LastKardax still very, very low here, but did look strong in that round surely against, Davidas. But Davidas still just greeting it out. Might even, if this next fight goes a little unlucky, could be sub 20 HP going into stage 5, and even more problematic than being sub 30, of course. But they actually might be able to get the win here. Putty is just playing strongest board, hasn't really rolled for the final comp yet because they're still
Oh,
on the Sivir 1.
not only did the Zaya ult backwards, the Pike was able to run away anyway.
Yeah,
And if Davidas loses this round, it is because of that. An ult forward would have taken maybe 2 units down and hit 5 people, but instead just whipped. It's like
that's
when I
so
play
tragic.
Zaya in ARAM, and like fight RNG happens. That's why sometimes like you feel like the worst team wins. It's like just like with anything, when you press play, crazy stuff can happen, and you could have a 1 out of 10 chance of winning a round. And unfortunately for Davidas, I think like the underdog kind of took this because of some bad ult placement from that Zaya. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't get any more belts, or else I think we're gonna have to check on him later.
Yeah, that would be a little unfortunate there. A big unfortunate, actually. But let's see what the enemy components give. There's no swords, so you're likely to get one at this point. More likely, at least. But no, we're going to have a oh man, cloak and a rod there. Ionic Spark is good for the cannon. Doesn't have the GA, which is unfortunate. Sphinx is doing a massive pivot right now, has sold, the majority of the board, and is rolling down with not a lot of gold here. So what are we doing right now? There's a mage cap Shyvana that has no other brawlers beside her. This is not the Sphinx pivot that we wanted to see.
No, not at all. Sphinx also probably one of the best pivoters in the game, to be completely honest with you. So, probably has some of the best long-term thinking that I've seen in the game. And we're gonna get to see the power of Aatrox here in just a second. Not a ton of health back on that ultimate. So this pivot, usually pivots result in a round loss or 2 after that, as you choose star some of your 4 and 5 cost units.
Yeah.
But we have 2 more rounds, so this isn't like press the button, it's an emergency. As Davidas did lose once again, but we're getting really
It's
close to press the button, it's an
yeah.
emergency.
It kind of looks like an emergency right now. Sphinx, look at that pivot. I think Sphinx is feeling a little dizzy right now. Doesn't really know what all is going on. Because this comp is not it. There's Aatrox is not your Aatrox of like set 1 demon Aatrox. You can't really carry. You have no brawlers again with the Shyvana, and sure she'll deal a bit of damage, I guess, with the Dragon Soul buffs and everything, but I don't know. He definitely wants to sell it. That's why the cloak is there for now. Shyvana goes into the back line, which is nice in defending against this Olaf, but it really doesn't matter. Olaf's just going to turn around once he gets to the rest of the front line, and Sphinx is now all of a sudden on maybe 1 life.
Yeah, it could have been worse, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
That was, I think, a good result for Sphinx, as it's actually really crazy. We saw Noster with the same exact ASOL at like 3-1. Has not picked up a second
Oof.
ASOL yet. But ASOL 1 still does a ton of damage, especially if it's being supported by an Annie 3. We do get another Slayer in. My question is, what prompted this pivot?
I don't
Like,
know.
what
Yeah, I'm curious what.
happened to
Yeah.
cause the pivot, right?
I'm not sure. I'm curious what Sphinx's board was beforehand. Because I think it was a few brawlers, but he wanted to get out of brawlers. Just didn't find anything else. Maybe he wanted to find, like, we're mentioning a Swain. And yeah, there's a Swain here. Gonna pick it up. Probably wants it in, but like, where do you put your Runaans at that point? I don't know. This just looks so messy here. Uncharacteristically
Yeah.
messy for Sphinx, honestly. Like, get up against LastKardex's Samira too. This is surely just a loss.
Yeah, unfortunately for Sphinx, and the lack of intention is going to. This is old Sphinx, what we're seeing, right? From like a year and a half ago. Like Sphinx used to do this a lot, where just half committed, right, to a lot of things, would make some decisions and just would have to live with it, right? I
Yeah.
think that taught him how to, think ahead and get into his current play style. But in that particular situation, the lack of intention, there was no map, right? There was no a place to go for Sphinx. He never knew where he was going. So that is a reason why we are in 7th place, as Davidas is in 8th. Noster, Padrino, both at single digits, but Noster does have that Annie 3. And then everyone else, 3 people on fire, KardaX being
Yeah.
one of them. Look at the HP lead with Zan and Putty as well. 30 HP at 6-1 is like 2 rounds, and at that point is quite a massive lead. So I would say those 2 players probably have like a 70% chance of finishing in the top 4, where these same 2 players probably have a similar chance of winning. So I would say like 90% chance even at a top 4 with this HP spread. We'll see what happens with like Noster's Mage comp.
Yeah. Locket is interesting here, knowing that there's, can have the opportunity for an Ornn in. I think maybe Vanguard Spat could have been a bit more valuable here, but oh well. Zan Syed still has set himself up very, very nicely. 2 Shyvanas away from Shyvana 3, is on a set pair, is 3 away from Nunu 3 actually as well, and we know the power that an unkillable Nunu 3 can have. Paired with that Shyvana, like this is looking really nice for Zan Syed. Definitely no surprise that they're at 70 HP. What is a surprise, however, is the fact that there's 2 players that are above 70 at 5-5, like almost going to stage 6, and yeah, they're both still 70. Padrino there with that loss. Unfortunately, the Duelist Kale cannot do enough work, and it gets eliminated in 6th, actually. Noster eliminated in 5th, and all of a sudden, we have our top 4 with 3 people still on fire on that win streak.
That, I don't think I've ever seen this. 3
top
people
4,
on
3
fire
people
in
on
the top
fire?
4. Yeah. Like, that's like one of those, like, it has to go this way exactly in order, in order to get here. That's fine. This is hype. This is super hype, especially with LastKardax being on fire in 4th place. We know that they were very strong 4 rounds ago, with some good items as well, potentially a fortune game. But these top 2 comps are also very strong too. This is one of those situations where the lobby got kind of bullied by a couple people, and that's why 4 people are eliminated at 5-6. Like, I've been in lobbies where everyone is still alive at 6-1, right?
Yeah.
So it is so top heavy at this point in time that 4 people got eliminated, and ACommonQuail now on elimination territory. Olaf is going to take down that Set. That's not always going to be that Olaf's direction, but if Set doesn't kill on that ult, it will be hard. As at least we get a Zephyr, right?
Yeah. These
Actually,
aren't the worst items.
Frozen Heart can low-key be very strong as well if the placement is good. It can be very annoying for some people.
Yeah, I just look at item, right? Then I look at who you just faced, and that's Putty there, the top 77 HP. They have the Olaf, and with the Olaf ults, Frozen Heart pretty useless at that point. So I don't like seeing that item, of course. The Redemption's okay. The Zephyr is potentially going to be great. One of the best items to get in a late game scenario from the neutral round. Zan Syed also found 1 more Shyvana. They have the Ornn pair here. If they find the Ornn too, they can just get the artifact right now. So they're going to be rolling it down. Find a Nunu. 2 more Nunus left. 1 more Shyvana. I want to see the rolls. Okay, set 2. Frozen Heart there. Yeah. Redemption on the Cho'Gath. I love that. Saving the Zephyr now. Shyvana 3. Just hit.
Do not ever, if there's a role in TFT that's like don't chase Singed. That's actually a really good question. Like to you too. For me, it's don't put Redemption on Set.
Oh yeah, or
exactly. Just don't do it. You want him potentially. You want to get 1 ult and then die, and then do sit-ups and then come back in, get that 2nd ult in. Just don't put Redemption on Set. Even if he's like the only one available, you just literally will never use it outside of those stats.
Oh boy, there's just so much HP that ACommonQuail cannot get through here. So ACommonQuail goes down to 5 HP. Zan Syed still, after that roll down now, is in such a dominant position. Putty took a huge loss there to LastKardax, and we know the LastKardax does have the Samira 2 with those, I believe it was RFC, Last Whisper, and IE. can't unfortunately get their perspective for this game, unfortunately, though. But moving on over to Putty. The artifact from Zan Syed was a Triforce, but I don't think there's any really slots available for that to be on anybody useful.
I wonder. I'm still thinking about Sphinx's pivot, but now that we're here, it was just so uncharacteristic. Also, we have two static shivs
The Lee
on
Sin.
this Lee Sin, which is tickles my heart. But we still have all four players at 6-2. I could almost bet. I'd bet money that this is going to go to 7-1 with the HP differential on the top side. Even at 36, this Putty comp is good. Right, but it seems like we're getting countered. LastKardax still hasn't lost just yet, and we're starting to get to some very, very strong team comps. The Olaf, do you want to give up on the Olaf 3 dream?
100% every time. No question. You sell that. There's no way we're getting Olaf 3 here.
Yeah,
that's a really huge find here for Putty, though.
I mean, any tier 2-5 cost unit at this point is going to help someone take the dub, but it's the only one on the field right now. We're like on a paper thin like Bill Gates Slayer comp right now. The front line not mega beefy. The Swain is can last a little while, but if there's enough damage on the other side, like with Acels, you can get bursted down pretty easily. Let's see how hard the Swain's going to hit, and it's going to be pretty hard as this tier 3 Shyvana, though, is going to keep things pretty close, as Zan Syed is going to bring that set right back.
Here we go. The set ulti. Can it do enough? No, the Olaf is going to heal through it.
Oh, the Dragon Soul! Oh, the Dragon Soul proc actually takes the round away from Putty. That set was gonna ult. If that attack didn't go off, that set wins that round. Thrilling.
Yeah. Oh man, that was real close there. ACommonQuail does fall in that round in 4th place. LastKardax still is on a win streak right now. Putty won that round, but even in just the 2 round losses in stage 6 that we've seen already, they went from like around 70 health to 36. They do have the blue buff for Lee Sin now, so it will ultimate instantly, and that's going to be massive in kicking out a priority target, especially against Zan Syed and those brawlers. LastKardax, I believe, does have frontline threats as well. Yeah, like that Cho'Gath or the Darius, one of the two. Lee Sin, or excuse me, the Shen as well. Wants to kick the Shen off here.
Which is interesting. Especially with
Zephyr.
Olaf getting that ultimate. That's actually very interesting to me, as a lot of burst damage goes into the corner. We are going to get that Shen out of the way. Almost didn't even need the kick. Just did enough damage that time, but is going to take a round. Looks like it was a ghost round as we move over to LastKardax against Zan Syed. And this Samira is very strong, and this is really close to like a real Space Jam comp from LastKardax, but he's the one on fire. The HP, both of our 70 HP players down to 36 and 12 at this point in time. So this is going to be determined around 7-2, 7-3. We'll see who will reign supreme at the end. But right now, Kardax is looking quite strong, as he, in this top 3, has been able to beat both players so far in this rotation.
Putty did just beat LastKardax's Ghost there. So the potential is there for Putty to actually take this game. It is going to face, however, Zan Syed here, and the Lee Sin is positioned well, but gets Zephyred there, though. Great play by Zan Syed.
Yeah, there's a reason why Putty is laughing. I believe that's 5 rounds in a row that Lee Sin has gotten Zephyred, and this is good revenge. I mean, Lee Sin might not be on the field anymore, but we've got really good Olaf items. We've got Jewel Gauntlet on that Swain. We're feeling quite good about ourselves. Zan Syed, after being on fire when we hit the top 4 in about 4 rounds, gets eliminated. That is absolutely insane. Titan's Resolve for Kardax. That front line's pretty terrifying, to be completely honest with you. We even have a Last Whisper on the Zillion in the back line. And you know what? If that Zillion tags a crit on somebody in the front line, that's going to be very useful. So we'll see what happens, as Redemption is going to be what we use here. And that's not an awful item in a 1v1 situation, especially against the type of comp that Kardax has. So we'll see what happens, right? You can put it on the Darius if you want to do it early. You can do it on the Trundamere if it happens a little later. We shall see. But if you're wondering where your Samiras are at, they're here.
Yeah.
on the other board.
That they are. And top two compositions are both Slayers, and that's kind of why we say Brawlers is a top four comp. Zan Syed had a great lead, great comp, but it just was not able to step to these compositions here. 7-1, Boop. You called it. We got here. Could still have one more round left. Redemption's gonna go on Darius here. So Johnny gets Zephyr.
Okay, so we're gonna save the redemption for a last minute placement. Not gonna work at all. This Kardax comp is pretty nuts, but this Olaf is really, really strong right now and is just going to power through. Who needs RFC? As Putty is going to finally beat Kardax, the first one in a while. You know, we're max 2 rounds away from a winner here, because if Putty loses, that they most likely will be in elimination territory. But, you know, to no surprise at all. I think the fact that they have 2 Slayer comps in the game right now winning is
as
par for
expected.
the course. Yeah, it's as expected.
Definitely. That redemption, actually, the holding it for a little bit there, exactly when a unit would die, or at least close to it, I think that actually did make an impact there. Can't do it in this round, however, and now the Swain gets Zephyr this time around.
So the Zephyr placement is going to be different because it didn't work last time, right? Putty did win that round, and we've got the Olaf in the backline already, and it's going to get GA'd. So this is a much better round for Kardax so far, and Zephyring one other person is going to bring this into single round terror. Oh, look at Mies go 7-3. Look at that.
7-3. This will be, I believe, the final round of the game. However, it's going to get down to positioning here, and the Zephyr is what the Lee Sins are able to kick, and how long the Samira from LastKardax will be able to survive. Because when Samira gets taken down, early on, is when Putty will be able to get the win.
This might actually be the longest lobby we've had since the set started. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but we've been rushing through a lot of lobbies with reroll comps starting out, and then some other top-heavy comps dominating Fight Night. But other than last week, we had some very close lobbies. This week, this first lobby, however, not the case, as LastKardax and Putty kind of dominating the lobbies here, as the Samira is going to get an ult off, but the Olaf is going to walk right past the Darius. That kill with the GA was huge. Are we going to be able to get to the Samira? The GA is going to be procced. Is the Slayer buff going to be enough? The answer is yes, as Putty going to be the first victor today, using the OG water sprite, by the way.
Yeah, it kind of lets out a big sigh of relief there, Putty. That was very, very back and forth. The minorest of positioning changes really makes the difference there. If Olaf can find his way to the Samira, not get the GA popped early, and it was popped later on into the fight, was able to res and take down that Samira. That was very, very well played by LastKardax, but Putty, takes the victory in game number 1. Slayers, top 2, however. And as you mentioned, I think that is very par for the course in this meta. It is Slayers, Slayers, Slayers. We saw a Kale player, but what place did they go in? I don't know. They got eliminated a long time ago. I can't really remember, right?
I feel like Kale is married to 6th place.
Yeah.
Personally, because that's what happens when I play Kale. It is a guaranteed 6th place, no matter what I do. Anyway, Putty, 10 points on the top. LastKardax at 8. Zan Syed, 7. ACommonQuail at 6. What a crazy top 4 lobby that was, because Noster was also in that lobby, friends, for a while. And, it just didn't feel that way, as we went through, I think, all of 6 and 7 with just 4 players. Padrino at 3. Sphinx at 2. Very odd game from them. And Davidas at 1. Because getting 4 belts for your items is probably going to result in a similar position no matter who you are.
It's very interesting, actually, that you say that, because I believe Jirachi had a similar start over this past weekend, had some terrible items, but made it into a top 2, I believe. With some nice item slams and some transitioning. So it is possible to salvage a situation like that, but it is, of course, very, very difficult to do so. Davidas there wasn't able to make it work, and once you get 4 belts to start there, and you have like a trap claw Hodge as your 2 items on your 1 carry, that is Zaya, and no GA for your Kennen, Yeah, it's very rough, so you can't really fault that. But I do want to see some improvements from the bottom two players in that game coming into this one, and I think we're likely to see those just because, for
Yeah.
one, you're probably not going to low roll item components that hard for 2 games in a row, and even if you do, you might have a better shot on how to utilize them to some effectiveness and,
Yeah.
and not make the same decisions that you did that game. But also Sphinx. That was uncharacteristic. I think that pivot was like some of the like I don't want to say it, but it's like some of the worst we've seen Sphinx pivot.
You oh my god, you are in my head. I was like, "Am I gonna say it?" And then you
I
said
said
it,
it.
and then now I'm saying it. That was probably the worst game I've seen Sphinx play in about 6
Yeah,
months.
in a long
Like
time.
like
Yeah.
that, like, if I'm being completely real with you, that I would say, like, that was a situation where, like, it didn't exist. Like, that's a
Yeah.
just get past it, right? Like, true mulligan, we're just moving on, to the next one. That was so incredibly uncharacteristic of him. It was
Mhm.
very odd, because this is, someone who almost made the qualifiers. I think was like 4 spots away
Yeah.
from making the qualifier. Someone who has won fight night, I believe, has been here. I think Sphinx's record is 7 or 6 weeks, right? So it is someone who's grown with us, someone that I've known for a really long time, and that was a tad disappointing. I'm not mad. I'm just a little disappointed. We'll see if but one thing Sphinx is really good at, though, is improving throughout a fight night. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but Sphinx seems to do better as
Yeah.
time goes on. Um, Usually peaking around lobby 3. So we'll see what the difference is going to be here. As this is a good reminder for everyone to stay hydrated.
Definitely. Hydration check in the chat. LastKardax and 5 other members of this lobby all went for the glove. LastKardax unfortunately was not able to pick it up, but that is interesting. This meta, people, prioritize bow, glove, sword. Less so bow nowadays. I think that like Kale has kind of been like overshadowed by a lot of other comps. And it's really gloves because they are so versatile in both dominant compositions, right? Being one slayers, but mages as well. Being able to get a jeweled gauntlet is going to be huge. You're almost always going to want that item on an Aurelian Soul, but even Hodge can work as well. And Hodge is a flexible item. You can make IE, Last Whisper. There's just even Thieves Glove Slam, which some players will go towards. There's just
I
so many good
love.
glove items in this meta.
Yeah, say you get like bad items and you have your like you get 2 cloaks and a belt, right, for your start. And the game is like, here's a chosen Rakan, right? You throw your Thieves Gloves on that Rakan, you could win streak for a very long time. And
Hmm.
you could go Elderwood early, you could go Keeper, all because of rolls. You might lose, right? I mean, you can low roll some items, but you're still gonna have more items on the field on your carries than other people, right?
Yeah.
Just based on how Thieves Gloves work. So that's the really intriguing part of it. One thing I also love about LastKardax is, we watch a lot of people on stream. This man loves this game. Yeah,
Oh
you,
yeah.
you know what I mean. He's emotionally completely invested in it. You can tell exactly how he's feeling at any given time, and it's just an absolute joy to watch. Anyway, LastKardax has the cloak. Where else are we going? Okay, so we have Rudens. We also have Chalice. This is a very interesting decision because if you go Rudens, you're kind of locking yourself into a couple comps. But if you go Chalice, you can stay completely open. So I wonder which direction we're going to go. Yeah, we
So
got the Callista. So yeah.
yeah. Interesting thing that happened right there. There was the Garen 2 last Cardex had, but had only 3 gold. You can't level up with only 3 gold. Of course, you need 4. So not only does selling the Garen allow you to pick up the Tom Kenchparent level to 4, but it also frees up the cloak that you then use for the Renans on Callista. So 2 very, very key things that happened there that made last Cardex, I think, very, very strong here. Even if you win as well, you could pick up the Maokai that's also in the shop to give you the direction of having the frontline brawlers for the early game. And I think because of all those decisions coming through, actually, this is Sphinx has almost like mirror comp here, Runan's Callista. But Last Cardex's will be a little bit stronger, however.
LastKardax with a nice little win here. I love Vladimir in the early game. I've had a lot of conversations, and it's funny. I'll call Vladimir a support unit, and people will be like, "Oh," and it's like, "Yeah, they have Vladimir's really good. Like it does what Sivir does, but instead of attack speed, you get a heal. So, however, it takes forever to get to that ult. So you're pretty much going to get only one heal, and not a ton of damage. And so Vladimir falls off quicker than a lot of other people, but in the the 2-1 to like 3-2 categories, I think Vladimir can be very helpful in the early game to like fill
Yeah.
out a brawler comp or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And Vladimir, of course, being a cultist, puts that cultist energy online for LastKardax. I think last game we saw a chosen Vladimir, go into 6 cultist, had the Ionic Spark carrying as well. I do like Vladimir a lot in the early game here. LastKardax is going up against Davidas that has Nico and a Nautilus, a
And
couple of
no belts.
fabled units. Yeah,
Thanks,
no
Northgod.
belts. No belts, at least right now. Might get some in the future.
We're actually open on Davidas' side. Like anytime you get a brand that early, it's like one of those things that you think about. Am I gonna roll for these mages? Like say you hit a TF chosen like Kardax has right now, you could think about it, especially with the rod on the bench, which I know a lot of mage players actually like getting off the carousel because it can turn into they can get the glove a little later sometimes, especially your loose streaking mages. For first carousel priority at the
Yeah.
very, very early game. Because it was Numano who used to do stuff like that, which is, I like being on top of the leaderboard, so I don't necessarily get the best item available because I'm going to pick last later, so I have to think about that too.
Yep.
And I think some people are starting to think more like that, as Noster has a Hextech Gunblade on the bench, which is a really good item for some mages, or we can get some Grievous Wounds on someone like Annie.
Yeah, we could get a Hextech Gunblade for a Katarina. Katarina is Fortune, and Fortune's what we see on Noster's board here. So I'm curious what point Noster is able to actually cash out. That will determine the pacing of this game for them. Morello's actually has been built, and that does take down the Garen, so it saves HP. You're just kind of committed to anything that uses Morello's, which it can be flexible. You can fit Sejuani into pretty much every single composition, and Sejuani, if nobody else, you have for it, can hold Morello's perfectly fine. So I like that decision there for Noster. It gives you a bit of a power spike so that you won't lose so much HP, and you can also have a plan to pivot on out of it. Or I guess pivot away from it being on Annie, rather.
Well, and I think part of the reason why we do have like the Elise chosen in the front line is we're expecting to lose a little bit. I think Morello's is one of those items that is good at taking out 1 or 2 more units, but not
Yep.
necessarily a round-winning item like a Hextech Gunblade on a Asol could be, right? Like if you do Hextech Gunblade, Jeweled Gauntlet, or something like that.
Yeah.
But we do have a Lucky Lantern, and it's going to be a pretty simple one. One
Okay.
item and a remover. Love the remover. I love watching pros use it, personally. It's just it's nice to be able to like give them just like, you know what? You can stay on the field. And then they just magnetic remove some items onto some other people. But in Slayer comps, for example, that can be very, very nice. Or if you're
Oh yeah.
about to sell your chosen in the late game because they've petered out a little bit, you can sell your chosen, and maybe you don't get another chosen later. You can put your items on somebody as a placeholder and then magnetic remove them if you have to. It creates a lot of cool skill expression type of situations
Yeah.
when it comes to high level play.
Exactly. Okay, I was actually curious. LastKardax did end up picking that Jarvan chosen up. I believe it was a keeper chosen Jarvan. And that's going to be really, really strong for this stage in the game, stage 2. Slam the Ionic Spark on it as well. So could go the direction of keepers. Isn't locked into it, of course, but you have the item remover. So that Jarvan, could just be the
Yep.
item holder for Kennen. Item remover there and swap the items on over. Speaking of keepers, Rakan is found here for Noster, but not really going to utilize that right now. Could, if they win, sell this for Econ, but they are playing Fortune, so probably still want to go on the loss streak or maintain the loss streak. I think some players would be tempted to sell this Elise for Econ here, or at least to guarantee Econ. Noster is considering it.
Because there's a point where it's like, okay, I'm gonna lose by a lot anyway, right? Like me taking down a unit because I have a tier 1 Annie with Morello's is, me. The Darius definitely has the best shot of taking a unit down, as we see right there. So it looks like it's only going to be the one. You know what I mean? So that's why selling the Elise is an idea, because we probably lose by the same amount anyway. You know what I mean? So it's got to be that give and take. But I think at this level, it's you want to maximize your potential and lose as best as possible, kind of like Zan Syed did last round, because I think it was around this time also on a 5-game loss streak, but at 80 HP, right?
Yep.
So that's the difference there.
Definitely. Level 5 now here for Noster. Has 30 gold, has the cultist synergy in as well. So at some point in stage 3, you want to cash out the fortune. You don't want to get stuck in fortune jail having to go into stage 4 with it. So at some point, Noster is going to level to 7 or just level or roll down a lot at 3 too to perhaps get a lot stronger. Let's see. There's going to be a Nico's. There's going to be some gold granted as well. And a couple components here. Nothing too amazing though. Could be like a random D-claw, a gun blade, but nothing super appealing. Maybe Ionic Spark if we're feeling that one, but not really any solid direction I would say for Noster here.
I like that Ionic Spark's making a little bit of a comeback. That item's cool. I used to hate that item's guts, right? When it was just
Yeah.
kind of like plug and play, right? Remember how strong it was back in set 2?
Yeah, very.
Yeah, it was like unhealthy for the game, and you gotta give credit again, man. Like, I remember being on a podcast and be like, just get rid of the item. It's it's not interactive and blah blah blah. Now it's one of my favorites, right? Because of how the game has evolved since then. That kind of power has balanced out based on the evolution of the game, right? So,
Yep.
Ionic Spark 2, this has been, I would say this is a pretty beefy meta in terms of HP totals compared to some other ones. So it can be, Ionic Spark can be really nice in terms of getting rid of some of them, especially if you're able to tag some people for like a Kennen ult. That's why it's so good on that Kennen, for example, because I know a lot of people look at the Ionic Spark and the Kennen and are like, what? Right? Because it's been a Riven item forever. Right. And so now we're finally seeing it on some other people.
Yeah, I mean, it's still just if you think about the item itself, like what does it do? It reduces the MR of people around it, and so if you do some magic damage, like Riven did, and like Kennen does in a big AOE, it just makes sense that the item would have some decent synergy there. Are moving on over to the lobby leader in HP, tied with Sphinx, I suppose, but on a win streak on fire is Padrino, rocking the 4 sharpshooter. And this is really nice, I think, with the Tristana in the early game. Tristana can utilize a whole slew of items to carry with, has the Dragon Soul buff as well. So yeah, this is looking like it was looking like a dominant victory. It still will be a victory, just not as dominant as it was looking. Takes down Putty.
Yeah, Tristana, like the new Nidalee, right, is a professional at living with this amount of HP a lot of the time, which can be really, really frustrating. But I would say Tristana is probably, you could make the argument as being one of the best item carriers in the game.
Yeah.
The reasoning is because just like some other units in the game, but because I think we're Dragon Soul, this Tristana can carry AP and AD items and carry early game with both of them, right? There aren't many people in the game who can do that. TF is one that comes to mind, Fiora old school, but instead of damage, it was tank versus damage. During the reroll meta not too long ago, but this Tristana is it's just a cool character, really nice for the game in terms of, hey, you got AD items that are going to go on Kayle or Olaf, put it on Tristana. Hey, you have AP items that are going to go on Asol or something, you can put it on Tristana for now and win, which is pretty cool.
Yep, definitely. Tristana, I mean, utilizing the Deathblade and the Runehands could actually win, but no, won't.
Oh,
Barely. The Nidalee Spear comes through. Padrino loses the win streak. Still in a decent spot, however, though. Like, that one loss, sure, it's unfortunate. You're not going to have the opportunity to get as big of a lead because of netting just so much gold gain, but still okay. Noster down there at 46 already. Does win the round,
out.
however, and that's the cash out. Yeah, I'm curious if we can perhaps see what that cash out from Noster will bring. And yeah, we'll see it right after this carousel.
Okay, here's the deal. For everyone that is excited for Noster right now, 46 HP at this point means that I think the unit that we saw die may have been the only unit that Noster has taken out throughout the entirety of these rounds. At 46 HP, that's like 1 for 30 units in terms of taking him out. So This is almost as low as you can go. At least it's the funny thing is, it's like at least there is a little bit of optimism because we're this low early. So if we lose again, it's not like we're gonna get eliminated like we've seen other people do on Fortune, right? They cash out at 18 HP, for example, and then they just lose the next round. As it's
Mm.
gonna be a spat, which opens up some options. The spat is always gonna make you think about things. Do you hold it on for potential force of nature? Are you gonna put it with your uh I guess rod for Dragon Soul? It's funny, we have a ton of items, but not a lot of good spat options.
Yeah, Noster wants to keep the win streak going here, so levels up and tries to make something happen. Not gonna end up being that strong, however, especially with two Tom Kench ones on the board. Didn't want that one to happen. Now a Deathblade is slammed on the TF. This is a little bit sloppy, I would say, but overall, not that big of a deal. TF and Set could still win this if the Set gets the ult off. And yes, we'll do so. We'll
Oh!
clean it up.
That was like 1 or 2 spears away from being runded, in my opinion. All right, we're at
Yeah, it
50
was
gold
close.
too. I think the fact that we have set at 3-5 is pretty awesome.
Mm.
Was the reason why we ended up winning that last round. But we're going to commit to those brawlers because we do have that set. That was the direction that we needed. If all of those pixels on the screen, seemed like a lot, the most important pixels were on that set, and that's why we're on brawler 6 right now. Where is that Deathblade going to go? It's going to go on to the Shyvana. We still have a lot of options. QSS. We could do Hex Tech on the set if we wanted to. A lot of possibilities. Jewel Gauntlet as well.
Yeah. Noster, I think, is doing a very, very good job at playing a lot of very small pivots right now to just net victories at this point of the game. You don't really want to drop below 46 HP right now, of course. So we're going to get the 6 Brawler, but I would not be surprised if we actually pivot out of 6 Brawler here into something like Slayers, because you aren't going to want a Vi chosen going into the end game with a brawler composition unless you're like tier 3ing it and you have, BIS items for the rest of your carries like Shyvana. But Deathblade is not BIS for Shyvana. She's going to want, of course, the Runans, the Rageblade, the Hodge, things like that. But it's strong at the moment. The end of stage 3, having this board, amazing. Even early on in stage 4, like we're going to see, Noster having this board is amazing. At what point though is Noster going to be able to get to push to level 8 and roll it down? I think we'll probably see a level 8 come after the stage 4 carousel. Items here, no GA potential, which is awkward. However, there
He's got
could
like
be
everything
Runans.
except what he
Yeah.
wanted, right? Oh no. Okay, so this is one thing about Noster that's actually really crazy is I think their brain might be, someone that I would like to do the Turing test on. Because when I see these items, I freeze. Like I get analysis paralysis, right? But I don't know if you noticed over the last 2 rounds, these pivots, and like literally yesterday, I tier 2'd a unit that I didn't want to tier 2 in the early game because I misclicked the character portrait. So when so so the fact that like this is awesome to see to see from Noster because that happened yesterday and was very, very annoying. And so
Yeah.
I'm just jealous. I think that's why I'm pointing it out.
Okay, Elderwood spat here. I think this actually might go the direction of a full Elderwood board with like 3 mages, probably like Zaya and Rakan. I can see that working out here. I wonder if it's going to be exactly that, but the potential is there. We have one Nico's help as well that could be utilized. The rolls probably won't happen here. Yeah, it's just going to slowly level up. But at the point where Noster goes 8, that's where this composition will either live or die. It'll have success or just fall flat on its face. The set here going to be the Morello's Holder. We'll tune back in with that later. But for now, moving over to Davidas. Did have an unfortunate game number 1. Going a bit better here in game 2 with
Ooh,
this
those Nico
fabled
items.
board. Yeah, the Nico items are decent. Once either like a optimally, I mean, you want a Vanguard spatula
Yeah.
on the Nico, but a GA or a Gunblade here could suffice. I think probably a GA just at this point. Make sure you don't get one shot by anything.
In terms of damage potential, this is one of the highest versions you'll see from a Nico. So the third item is going to be very interesting. Like you said, are we going to go defensive? I think that would be the best option, especially if we do get a spat since we have the chain vest. But one thing about Nico is that ult is like in molasses sometimes. You know what I mean? It feels like it's just as, not only is it slow to get there, it feels slow when they use it. And so people you'll see walk out of it, even though there's a ton of damage attached to it. But at least we do have the Chosen. We have the one best in slot item with that Jeweled Gauntlet, and we'll see what comes out of it. But if you want to win a lobby as Fabled, that Nico 3 is pretty close to a requirement. If you have a weak lobby, you can maybe Nautilus 3.
Yeah.
Which I've been experimenting with all weekend and top forward. No matter what I built on Nautilus 3, I top forward on it. So it's just super, super fun. I even built Olaf items on them just for the lulz and got third. And so it's just a tanky character. So there is a secondary carry option in this particular lobby as a Swain 2. That's where those items are going. It's a Swain 2, friends. Noster 11 goes from 46 HP and a dream to 35 HP and possibly the strongest board in the game.
So I was a little bit wrong. Noster did go to 8 and rolled down on 4-3 as opposed to 4-5. But 1 round difference there. Can basically say I was right in that pacing there, but no, the Swain 2 is amazing. The Dragon Soul buff is online right now. Having the Declaw and the Gunblade, 2 of the best items I think for him. Padding on the stats from Elderwood, it just even better, right? We're going to see Noster stabilize, I believe, from that. There is a spatula potential here for Davidas, and you definitely want that. Yeah, aggressively clicking for it gets it. Vanguard Nico, this is what can win a game. You were saying the condition being Nico 3. I agree with you, but it can still be done with a Nico 2 and a Vanguard spatula.
Yeah, that is one of those win conditions for sure. So we are going to get that Vanguard Nico online, and so we can pivot into 4 Vanguards, which is going to make that Nico, remember, who takes forever to get to that ult, so tanky that we're going to get there. It's going to remind you of the Star Guardian Nico of the past when it comes to getting some of those defensive buffs. So this is why we're seeing more Vanguards on the field. 4 Vanguards right now. Yeah. Only tier 2 units are the Yumi, the Nico, and the Nautilus. For some reason, I really want to, every time I say it, I want to go Nautilus. No reason. Other than that's how I say it in my head. Yeah, I know, right? Just to, feel smarter than I am. But yeah, so we're going to see if we can tier 3 some of our Fabled units. We don't have the Cho'Gath, so this is always a question for people. When you do get the Fabled chosen, the choice is, am I still going to put the third Fabled in? Because it's really good still, right?
Yeah, that's why getting a Fabled chosen is kind of unlucky. You'd rather get the Mystic chosen at that point, because you like running all the Fabled units. Like, they're strong. They provided so much CC. And Nico, man, being at Vanguard, she just won't die here at the end. Braum is a tanky boy, though, but no, not quite tanky enough. Gonna fall to this Nico, but regardless, I don't think you play the Cho'Gath here. I think, Ornn actually being found at level 7 on stage 4. Just high roll. You have a Zillion, you have an Ornn right now. You're feeling good if you're Davidas here. You really just need to get the Nico 3, and 55 HP being on right now is amazing. In a good spot. That is for sure.
Okay. Oh, it has been a hot minute since we saw a 6 duelist comp. So let's remember. Okay, the Zach Galifianakis meme is happening. So Duelist is actually really, really interesting. If you can get Callista 3, if someone gets into the Callista's face or the damage is done quick enough, can function a lot like Sivir, but too slow. Oh, there's a Callista on the other side. That's why.
Yeah.
So our pictures were initially blocking it, but Callista can be very, very strong. You can kind of put her in just like Kindred on a lot of different comps and probably find some victories out of it. But yeah, let's talk about Duelist. Why we haven't seen it and why we're seeing it now. Because we picked a Yasuo chosen a long time ago, probably, but we only have 5.
Yeah. So I'll answer first why we're seeing it right now. I think it's because there wasn't really any other options, and we happened to have that Duelist Yasuo in the early game. it wasn't committed to, right? There's 5 Yasuos right now. We're not really going for the tier 3. It's just an item holder, and we got 3 bows, so we said, screw it, Callista can hold those well. Let's just go duelist until we can pivot. But are we even going to pivot at this point? This composition is going to fall off so hard soon because the front line is basically going to be just useless. There's a tier 1 Jax, Shen, and Lee Sin there. Even the tier 2s being with Aurelia and Fiora, they're not going to do enough. There are no items dedicated to them, even if we make the tankiest items possible, like, you know, a redemption or like a Warmogs or something. It's just not going to be enough. We're rolling it down here. We get the Yone for the 2 exile, but once again, Yasuo isn't the carry here. It's really just going to be all on the Yone to do something, but he can't really even this round as well. The positioning wasn't great, and facing up against Kardax's Swain and Shyvana, I mean, Callista is trying to make it work right now.
Whew, man, this Swain, even through that grievous wounds, you see the oh, this Callista could, oh, that was close.
The
That was close.
declaw is a declaw div.
Yeah, that Dragon Claw. But everyone knows my opinions on that item, which is it counters every comp that I play. So, it's a personal vendetta. But it's so strong. It's not an item I would build early, right? You kind of have to see the lay of the land late game, and sometimes those declaws can be huge against the Kales, against the Vigors, against the Asols, for example, even against the Yone, the Callista, when it comes to some of that damage being mitigated. It is enough this time around, as we're going to continue moving into some adepts with that Shen, but the direction has got to be duelist, and if you want a top 4 with duelist, Callista 3, Yasuo 3 is usually how you do it. We're going to be doing it a little bit different this time around, though.
Yeah, a little bit different indeed. The Warmogs now goes in the Yone. Not a great ult there, however. Callista's trying to do work and actually will take out the Olaf there. So she's doing better than I give her credit for, I suppose. When I looked at that fight initially, I thought it would go over to the side of Padrino. So we're not getting outskilled quite yet. So Zan Syed could salvage out a top 4 if he hits, like, say, Lee Sin 2 and gets perhaps a blue buff or just, you know, any tanky item for him, really. Yone 2 is going to be critical as well to carry with.
I'm curious where why we were still sticking to 6 duelists too. Maybe it's because we have no money, right? And so our hand is kind of forced, but I don't necessarily think we need all 6 right now. We have our 4 divine, 3 adept. Man, what year is it? This is
Yeah.
What year is it? Is it 3 months ago? When it comes to duelists, and this Callista doesn't even need that QSS that time around. Callista is one of those units that can win around for somebody, and will continue to be doing that here. When is this comp going to peter out, if it does peter out, right? We do have the 6 duelists. We have good, perfect items on Callista, but the Yasuo chosen still being tier 1 doesn't look like we're looking for tier 3 as we're moving over to 8. Because, like, you also could have the argument of selling the Yasuo and finding another duelist chosen, for example. But this lobby is extremely close, the opposite of the last lobby, with our Sphinx being on top with 54 HP and Putty being on the bottom at 17. But this is still anyone's game at this point. Because remember, this time last game, I believe we're already at our top 4.
Yeah, this is a very, very close lobby here. I think going back to the point about duelists and running 6 of them, there's really only in my mind one thing that you can take out the duelist for right now, and that's going to be perhaps a pairing of Sejuani Aatrox, but being tier 2'd. There's not really much room for anything else in this composition that's going to be impactful right now. Speaking of impactful, that was a very impactful roll there from Zan Syed. Gets not only the Lee Sin 2, but also a pair of Yones, and gets an IE for, I mean, I guess the Yasuo there. It's not going to be amazing. He's only a Yasuo 2, but still. Moving over to Putty here, who is in last place right now. They're working with 6 keepers, and they have Ken and 3. No GA, but I guess it's okay when you have these 3 items. And
Shredder! Like, legitimately Shredder.
Zaya double
yeah. That is okay. So for those of you guys, gals and pals who don't know Shredder, it was also called Pikachu back in the day, and it was double static shiv Zaya. Some people put 3 static shivs on Zaya at the time, and it was really, I thought it was really fun to watch. Was strong for a really long time. It was another meta where like 1-cost units were really strong. Zaya was a 1-cost unit with an ultimate that was an auto attack enhancer, and so it made a lot more sense. But we're seeing some old school stuff right now. This is cool. I literally was like, man, I wonder if Shredder would work if we're just not trying it because she's a tier 4 unit right now. But she can attack really quickly with these items, and anytime you have Last Whisper, you can get the tag on. But that's just hopeful thinking. I just got really excited. This is not best in slot by any sense of the word when it comes to Zaya.
Yeah, no, she definitely functions a lot better now with those just raw like AD items like Deathblade, even like Renans too. I think get that AD online, get the ultimate going, deals a lot of damage. Gonna be swapping sides here, and then swapping back. Doesn't get to swap the Kennen there at the end there, that near 200 ping.
Oh no.
Not it. Kennen has no shields here.
Not in. I don't believe Putty is in the States right now, so the ping actually does, I think, matter in this situation. But this, I'm gonna call it. It's not Shredder, but I'm gonna call it that just for
Sure.
just for the nostalgia.
Oh.
We're gonna lose. Putty probably expected it based on what happens. At that point too, you're like, I deserve it.
That was an easy
You know
way
what
to
I
win
mean?
if the
Yeah.
camera was positioned correctly. So you got to be kicking yourself for that one. I mean, you know, right? If you're playing on NA servers from, of course, not NA and on close to 200 ping, you're gonna have to account for that like split second of delay there when you're trying to fake swap out your whole comp at the end. You need to give just a bit more time there. I'm sure Putty's gonna realize that and not make that mistake again. That's kind of mistake you only really make once. I would say at least to that extent. Of course, the Elise didn't get moved there at the end, tried to, but it's only a neutral round here, so it's not that big of a deal. Do get a Shojin here. Could be put on the Aatrox to make sure the Aatrox gets an ulti off. I don't really. I mean, Khroen as well, I suppose. Could be put on.
Yeah, not a lot of like easy solutions there. So I would probably put it on someone who I want to ult, right? I think you could also make, if this lobby had Kales, for example, I think you could make the argument to put it on Jarvan to get to the back line. But, excuse me, what I think should happen here, I think Recon is a good idea, as keepers are going to benefit from that ultimate. Everyone does, but I think keepers need a little bit of time to get going. We got to get Ken into that ultimate. So having that tag on anybody could be good, but we're going to put on Ornn instead, because even though we might not hit back, we do have the keeper buff, so we might able to, nope, never mind. I was about to say we were going to maybe see the full Ornn ult, but it's just going to be the one. That Kennen ult could have been way better as well. And while a lot of people talking about Kennen and how strong it is and how, we've seen it win lobbies, Kennen 3 going to get a 7th place today.
Yeah, that is a 7th there. LastKardax got 8th, Putty got 7th, Padrino got 6th. If Putty didn't have that unfortunate Kennen not being moved earlier, they could still be alive here, and they could still have secured their unit upgrades as well. They were forced to sell their Sejuani and Aatrox pairs in favor of just getting something else online there at the end, but didn't work out. Now the Aatrox are back in the pool, so Sphinx hits, and we have a 9 cultist direction here for Sphinx. Haven't seen that one in a bit, but it is strong.
So is this comp on the other side too, though. That Shroud of Stillness tag on Nico is a little brutal. Unfortunately for Sphinx, no one is currently attacking that Nico, so it's just going to be able to get that ult off. But we did get our Galio out to support the team, and this Nico ult could technically have been better, but we are going to see how much damage this Galio 9 can do, which is not a lot, as Sphinx is going to lose a second round in a row. Goes from the top and now at 10 HP. Look at just how much closer this lobby is. We are in our top 4. Noster 11, Fortune playing one of the lowest HPs I think I've ever seen on stage 3 is going to finish in the top 4. And if that's not a lesson in losing is fine in this game, I don't know what else I can tell you, because still to this day, that is by far the number one thing I think, like, some newer players have the hardest time picking up, which is good losses exist in this game. And I think Noster didn't even have those, and we're still here. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so top 4 for him is really good. Davidas, that's a nice little comeback, especially since we had 4 belts on our items last time around. It's going to be that Nico 3 keeping us in the top 4. And we have Zan Syed on the top, playing really well today. Much more cool, calm, and collected than the last time we saw him. As I don't know if you remember, but the man was using every available brain cell because he had still the hardest day out of everyone, I think, last week, and worked very, very hard and impressively to come back for this week as Noster takes down Sphinx in the 4th place. But still better than the 7th that we got last time around.
Yeah, Noster's composition is so strong right now at this point. It's actually just insane. The Swain is near unkillable to pretty much anything right now. Even Zan Syed, who honestly, I'm surprised. This 6 duelist composition now is 4 divine as well. It does done a lot better than I gave it credit for. I did not think that this would happen with this Callista, but I think it just goes to show like what we have contesting it in the lobby. There's no Slayer compositions that are online that are going to really be contesting that to a lot of effectiveness at all, really. We have Noster, who has that kind of, I guess, like you would like to say, like the Bill Gates composition, a lot of legendaries online, some Aura artifacts as well. But it's really, I don't think they've, if they have matched up, it would go in Zan Syed's favor. And now Zan Syed is going to be even stronger on level 9 with the Yone 2 now as well. And so let's see how this matchup actually ends up going.
Noster, that set.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrifying. That is an auto crit and doesn't hit ults the wrong way. That has happened twice now with a couple different people, with Zaya earlier and the set now, but at least Set's going to get another opportunity. The divine buff on the Yone is going to run out here pretty quickly. At least we did get a lot of kills onto some units to keep our HP at 30. Is Davidas going to win out against the Ghost? And no, yeah, it looks like it's going to be the case. Is the set still not? That's the thing with set. Sometimes it feels like it's broken, right? Other times you're like, I'm going to report you. If you were a real player, I'm going to report you. And I think that's actually a really good way to balance a character. That little bit of RNG and choice of ulting and stuff, it does affect the game. But the fact that we're not consistent in, oh, he's so good, and some people are going to be like, oh, he can throw sometimes. I think that's balance a little bit, and
Yeah,
I think that's
some
it could be a good
variance.
thing. Yeah.
Definitely a lot of variance there. But even with the Nico over there as well, it has IE Jeweled Gauntlet and a Vanguard Spat right now. Item Remover was used to have that triple item combination going. This Callista, it's just unchecked in the backline, getting out so many stacks. The Rens are going to come out soon. And Yone with the Divine, with the Warmogs, pretty much unkillable here. Zan Syed wins against the Ghost of Davidas there. Someone will die here. It will be Davidas being taken out by Noster's
Oh.
composition. So the fabled Nico does get top 3, but no further than that.
Okay, Bloodthirster. Unfortunate. You know what? This is the one team comp that I think could really use that item. Bloodthirster, I think a lot of people would argue might be one of the worst items in the game, but I mean,
Yeah.
a couple auto attacks, a couple lifesteal opportunities, you might get 1 or 2 extras, and that can be the difference. Like, a lot of TFT rounds do come down to 1 or 2 auto attacks, right? We do have our top 2. This is also the first time in Fight Night this set we've had 2 consecutive lobbies go to round 7.
Yeah. The games are really, really drawing out here. I thought this game would end maybe on stage 6, just because so many people were so close in HP, and there was no like clear dominant leader there, or even 2 dominant leaders. Zan Syed is rolling down for really looking for that Tryndamere 2 right now. Has the opportunity to put the Zillion in over the Janna. You lose Enlightened buff, but that's not that big of a deal. Noster has the Morgana 2 online at this point.
That's big against this duelist comp, by the way.
It is a big deal.
It is going to neuter a lot of the attack damage, and you don't really need to get it on the Callista, since it's not the attack damage that matters for her. It's the attack speed, and we actually are going to get some good damage into the back line. This is a lot closer than I think Zan Syed wants it to be. And I think the tankiness of this Swain might be the difference maker, but no
Oh.
one able to get to the back line as duelists for the first time in what feels like millennia. Win a lobby in set 4.5. Khroen, your brain is turning. I can see it. What are you thinking?
So there's always, I think some TFT commentators have said it well. You can take TFT as like some things are good if, and this is one of those if scenarios. Six Duelist is good if we have a lobby that's relatively low on the power levels. And if you don't have capped out Slayer compositions, we had the top two being the legendary composition that the Duelist just ended up countering, and the Nico, the Fable composition as well, which just wasn't really able to stand up against it. We also, got our Lee Sin 2 and Yone 2 online, but rarely do you see Six Duelist win in this meta, even if it gets things like Yasuo 3 and like Callista 3 online. I thought Callista 3 would have been needed, but it
Yeah.
really wasn't. I just, the ifs weren't really going off in my head. It's just like, no, this composition, it's gonna fall off pretty hard. But it didn't. Like I was very, very wrong in that assessment, of course. And it's very interesting to me to see that get a lobby win, but very well played there by Zan Syed. And with that, Zan
Ooh.
Syed does go into a firm first place right now with 17 points. Second place being Putty with that lobby one victory, and Noster on 12 as well. ACommonQuail and the rest of the lobby pretty close though.
Look at just the actual flip flop that from lobby 1 and lobby 2.
Yeah.
Almost everybody has other than Zan Syed and Padrino, everyone has an almost directly opposite result. Isn't
Hmm.
that crazy?
Yeah.
But the thing about that Duelist Comp 2 that I want to point out is what we didn't see in that lobby, which was we didn't see a single Kale player, right? I've been waiting for the day where I'm like, because how long have I been saying this about Kale, right?
Yeah.
But the second thing was a lack of slayers as well, but not just that, we also didn't have any mages really.
Hmm.
So like the burst damage to get to the back line just wasn't there. So if that wasn't a Callista, that was a lobby that Kale probably wins, right? That's a lobby that a Sivir could probably
Yeah.
carry, right? That lobby specifically, and that's how I'm kind of thinking about it.
Hmm. No, I definitely agree with you there. There was a lot of room for other compositions to have a success there. We just really didn't see them and didn't see Slayers either. So it's like, what did we see in that lobby? But that just goes to show you how diverse the meta actually can be. And it is
Mhm.
game specific. Like we're probably not going to see a lobby like that in a long time. I would say, but
Yeah,
that is the beauty of TFT, of course. But man, those two games, they're
they
setting
were
us
good.
up for, yeah,
Yeah.
they're setting us up for a very, very interesting games 3 and 4, where honestly a lot of players could still take it. Zen Saeed is in the lead right now. It was a hard fought third from them last week, but they are in the driver's seat right now. So can that pressure, can they manage the pressure well enough, or will they make some blunders later on down the road? It's looking like it's working well for him now. But Boop, any final thoughts before we head on over to break?
With lobbies like this, with the results being so flipped and flopped, anything can happen. I mean, a duelist just won the lobby without any
Yeah.
of quote unquote the required duelist pieces. So that's nuts. I'm excited for lobby 3, Khroen. So we got to get there.
Definitely, we got to get there. But before, we are going to have a few minute break. So stick with us as we'll return very shortly for more Fight Night Rising. Welcome back, everyone, to Fight Night Rising. We still have games 3 and 4 ahead of us here, but wanted to, go over the scores again from the first couple of games because Zan Syed is very much in the lead right now. 5 points, I believe. Yeah, 17 points there. And Putty and Noster tied for 12 points right there. But coming from the performance that we saw Zan Syed last week into being dominant here, Boop, like, what are your thoughts on that? I think it's very, very surprising, but also like just impressive.
Yeah, this is a situation where, like, it's just one of those situations, as I say that twice, where it could not have been as hard as last week, right? It
Yeah.
was almost max difficulty last week. So coming into this week, it's like the training weights are off. It's like when you are training for a marathon, sometimes you'll, wear weights around your ankles so like you can get really good about raising. I don't know. I don't know if you tell that I haven't ran in a while. I think that's a thing.
Yeah,
Because
me
my
neither.
actual example was when I was in marching band, our trumpet and mellophone players used to tie shoes on their bells. So when they held them up, they were a lot heavier like this, and then so on show day we would take the shoes off and they'd be up in a proper position. So but he's just one of our mellophone players. All my marching band geeks in the chat know exactly what I'm talking about, I can guarantee you.
Not me, but all you guys out there have some idea of what is going on. But no, definitely. I think we've seen a lot of improvement, and I would say even in a stronger lobby this week than
Yeah,
last. Well, and to have that performance with that in mind is going to be even more impressive. So, can you play from a position where you are ahead if you're Zanside and still be consistent there? We've seen
tough.
some unorthodox play, I suppose, with the duelist there, but it worked because of the lobby. Can it happen again? Are we gonna see Kale? So many questions, Boop. Are we gonna see more mages too? Because so much is meta right now. I'm excited to see what these players decide to bring to the table here for games 3 and 4.
I mean, there were so many mage comps last weekend. Like,
Mhm.
we
A
haven't
lot.
seen a single one this time around, and I think I wanna bring back to a point that we said at the very beginning. The players here are diverse in their play styles. We have
Yes.
a lot of different play styles on display right now, right? We have some fortune gamers. We have some again, we haven't had a full reroll comp just yet, but we have had a lot of comps. I mean, that last lobby didn't have any of the quote unquote meta comps in it.
Mhm.
Right? And so like
Crazy.
I know, like you said, we probably won't see a lobby like the one that we saw last round in weeks, maybe months, right? But we are here, and that's what's so special about this particular game. But to go back on what it's like leading from ahead, it's tough, right? When you're setting the pace, all of a sudden it's this detail that you didn't maybe even think that you needed to have to deal with. Oh, I'm ahead.
Yeah,
Now I have to stay ahead. And getting to first place is a much different thing than staying in it. Consistency is
definitely.
is harder to is one of the hardest things to find in any aspect I think of your life. For all of you like me who have gained a lot of quarantine weight, right? We all know that. So it's important to know that this is a learning experience for Zansayed now, and this lobby is going to tell us a lot of where the potential can be.
Yeah. It's going to tell the story of where the potential of a lot of other players are as well, coming from, say, the bottom of the leaderboards, like Sphinx. Sphinx had a very rough game number one, barely managed to scrape a top four last game, but a top four is still good. It's just not good enough when you're comparing that to, a first and third from Zen Saeed there. You got a long way ahead of you. And talking about the play styles like we did coming into today about playing for top four as opposed to playing a first or eighth style, I think every single TFT player who competes needs to know how to do both. You're going to have your comfort, of course. Like myself when I competed, I very much was comfortable with playing that top four style. But there are always going to be times where you need to be able to play the other one. If you're a little bit below average, you need the first place to get you into that top three slot. You're going to need to play a riskier game. You're going to need to pull out things like the fortune or just force slayers, do things that are going to win a lobby here. So Sphinx and other members there at the bottom need to be thinking about those kind of decisions as we move into this game 3.
Game 3 is going to be a big one. Yeah, we have a leader ahead by 5 points, but this is not a player that has shown like a situation where, okay, I got the lead, let me stay up here, right? I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and that's how
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. Because a lot of people will change the way they play, right? When they get to this point, they feel like they have to do something different, and then they start losing, right?
Hmm.
You start overthinking, overanalyzing, like just like we all do in most of our relationships, I'm sure, right? Oh, you're mad at me because this and this, and the other person's like, what, right? And so sometimes I think players can get into that mindset too, where, oh, I'm in the lead, I gotta play first or eighth comps from here on out if I want to continue being in the lead. Where
Yeah.
where Zan Syed is right now, he could technically just go for top fours in the next two lobbies and still win. So
Oh yeah,
we'll
be
we'll see
comfortable.
what happens, right? You like be now is the time to not necessarily try harder is not the right word, but now is not the time to change what you're doing, because what you're doing right now is working. But if you
Yep.
play duelists again, maybe I might say something else this time
Yeah, I
around.
was gonna say, don't change what you're doing, but you might need to, depending on the direction of the lobby here. If you force 6 duelists every game, it's like that one meme, you're gonna have a bad time
Yeah.
if you keep doing that every single game. You gotta still be aware of the direction that the lobby is going in its entirety, right? All 7 other players there. And for right now, in the early game, you're not going to be thinking too much about it because people are going to have much different compositions than they have right now. Sphinx, as an example, has the Wukong chosen, and that's going to be great, but you're going to sell that somewhere down along the line. Getting
Hmm.
4 divine, however early, if say an Aurelia is found or something of the sort, can be pretty good. Selling all the units there and pre-leveling to level 4. I am a fan of that, I think. It offers up a better level 4 shop. You didn't really want any of those units that were on the bench anyway, and no, not many people stay on level 3 on 2-1 in this meta, unless you're going for like a full loss streak or going for a 1-cost reroll composition.
Yeah,
It's
you.
very much
Mhm.
aggressively posturing in that XP buying. You're going to be going to level 4, level 5 directly after Carousel, Stage 2 Carousel, and you're going to go on level 6 at 3-2 and roll down. Like that's the general pacing of this meta right now that everyone's going to be following.
So let's play a little game for chat right now. So imagine we're all Sphinx, right? We have the GA and we have the cloak on a specific unit. Sphinx likes playing Wukong, right? Has shown in the past that they like playing Slayer. So if you're in this lobby, you can assume that, okay, if Slayers is presented to Sphinx, we're probably going to commit, right? Even though we don't have the Zedin just yet, we're going to go Keepers instead. So we're keeping it a little open with the GA. The cloak can be assumed into a Runins, but can be something else later. And so these are all the things that a player is going to be thinking about going against Sphinx, but also if you're Sphinx, where are we going to go from here? Because getting 4 Divine 2 Vanguard is easy to do in the early game, but this is not going to be what we see in the late game. So what are we going to do with those items? How long are we going to keep this comp? Like, what's our check mark, right? How many
Yeah.
losses are we going to do? Like, are we going to level up early? Are we going to be aggressive? Those are all questions, but the basic thing everyone should be thinking about when sizing up your competition is, where could this go? Because while we might not be contesting now, right, I might want to adjust my play because it looks like we could be contesting each other later, and I
Yep.
want more access to those units. And Sphinx pre-leveling, right, is going to help him get to some of these units one round faster than some of the other players in the lobby.
Ooh, the Wukong actually got stuck there, wasn't able to hit the Tristana for quite as long as I would have liked. Still works out there. Sphinx gets the W. And I love the GA slam, I think, here as well. Honestly, a lot of times I say, GA slam early is like, sure, it's okay because it's flexible, but it doesn't provide you a lot of damage. It's the item that you want like second on your carry as opposed to first. Because survivability, if you can't do anything else with the survivability, it's not going to net into much, right? But you're not going to slam a Gargo Stoneplate or a Bloodthirster, which are the other 2 items that could be made here. You mentioned the Bloodthirster being probably one of the worst items in the game right now, and I would say that's probably pretty accurate, as well as the Gargo Stoneplate being up there as well, unfortunately. Because I think it was you that liked that item, right? Gargo Stoneplate.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
It's like
it's in an
it's
unfortunately bad spot.
Gargoyle Stoneplate like is like my child that isn't good at sports but also is struggling academically.
Oh no.
You know, right? So
Yeah, they're struggling all around. It's just
but they're still my child, and I love them as much as all my other children, right? Like, um, they're going to be a hard worker.
Yeah.
I actually talk. My dog is a lot like that, actually. He's got 3 legs. He's if you go to my Twitter, you can see his big furry face. But yeah, that's what Gargoyle Stoneplate is in this meta. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to get touched because I feel like it's just one of those items that when it's good, it's like a little too good, and when it's bad, it's like really bad, right? But I'll never forget. I'll never forget building Gargoyle Stoneplate when Aphelios was in the game against Tom Kench, and Tom Kench would heal through all of the damage from his passive as well as the Gargoyle Stoneplate stuff. That was beta of set 4.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Tom Kench unkillable. Sir Thomas could not be touched back then. Not quite the case nowadays, but ooh, we get a Lucky Lantern early on. Once again, stage 2. It's gonna be 1 component and a target dummy.
Ooh.
Target dummy haven't seen yet tonight, but it will now be in the game. And it's going to be frontline right now. Later on in the game, you can, of course, use it as Aurelion Soul or Aatrox bait. So that's going to be what players are going to be utilizing. Padrino with a brawler composition here. No Shyvana items currently, but has a couple of half components there for him. The tier, obviously, for Hand of Justice, and the cloak for a Runans. We'll see if that's actually going to be the direction for Padrino here. But what they are doing right now is just having such a beefy front line that you cannot get through that Tom Kench very easily.
No, that Tom Kench might actually be really close to top fragging because of that Sunfire cape, too. I'd be interested to see what it's going to be. This isn't a win yet. This Tristana could... Yep. Remember when I said Tristana's the new Nidalee? When it comes to barely winning around, that is going to be the case this time, too. Morello's on Tristana with that sharpshooter buff is brutal. As we have our 4 brawlers in the front line. We did just lose that last round, probably against one of the few comps that can beat us, because a lot of, I don't know if you've noticed, friends, but a lot of comps that you see here in the early game are going to be frontline heavy, right? And then the back line is usually pretty paper thin. But what's really interesting about like what I'm seeing Sphinx do, right? We're keeping a lot of things general and open more often. That was part of the changes of Chosens at level 7, right? So we have people exchanging Chosens, and so when you see something like a GA and a cloak, it's no longer they're doing this, right? What's really cool is that there's like 4 different answers, and you as a player have to decide which one of those 4 options has the highest win percentage. And knowing correctly is what's going to be the difference between our lobby winners that break records versus, you know, our 1 or 2 week returnees, if that makes sense. And so that's what's really exciting about what we're seeing here when it comes to this meta. So this is going to be Tom Kench in the Sunfire cape against another Tristana, and this time it's going to be the Tom Kench winning barely. Padrino is going to be able to get another win. Leaves the Katarina on the in the pack, so Fortune not in the future right now. Because sometimes if like the game gives it to you, you can do it, get like 4 extra gold, switch out. But that's not going to be the case this time around.
Nope, not the case. It is nice to get that little 4 extra gold because every single gold, especially early game before you get up to 50, matters a lot. 1 gold can turn into, you know, 2, it turns into 3, etc., etc., etc. Padrino here, still top of the lobby, 98 HP. Unfortunately, did barely lose out, so won't be able to full win streak here. Still is in the brawler train, however. The components that are oh, okay, that's huge. Already slamming the Renans onto the Shyvana. We have ourselves a brawler committal here. That last item, ooh, it's gonna be gold, so it didn't need to sell off those bench units there. Could have just gotten that one first. 3 Lulus in this shop. I mean, you actually don't pick them up here, oddly enough. Like, you would if we can put it in right now, I think, to try to win streak, but there's just no room in the composition. You can't take out 4 Brawler, you can't take out 3 Dragon Soul. If you make the Lulu 2, you miss out on 1 gold from the Econ, so Padrino's like, oh man, I circled the Lulus in the shop, I would like them, but yeah, just can't do it.
It's so funny how much information you get from mouse movement with people.
Oh yeah,
right? Like for
exactly.
me, I do that exact same thing. Like when I'm thinking about something, I'll straight just circle it and like, or I'll circle a unit, or like I
Yeah.
won't if it's the carousel, because if I make any inclination that I want something, someone else will take it, even if it's just like in my head.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part. But we are gonna pick up a second Lulu, just because we have the gold for it. And might, if someone else is trying to go for a Lulu, it might stop them from doing that. But
Oh
something
my
I've
god.
noticed, now that we're not seeing Kale, you know, else we're not really seeing are spirits. And so, not like, I mean, you used to see a lot of spirit comps to go with some of these auto attack based comps, but I mean, like the kindreds aren't as prevalent, the yumis aren't as prevalent. So very interesting how it has evolved. We will probably see some if we get these slayers in, but I mean, with last lobby being a duelist win, I don't know anymore.
Yeah. I'm just looking at this roll down, and I don't think that was really worth it there for Padrino, unfortunately. You'd have liked to find either 6 Brawler or like at least a pair of Shyvanas. Only thing that was found there was a Rakan 2 that we ended up sticking with, as well as an Olaf 1. Provides the Dragon Soul. And sure, you're going to be stronger than Davidas right now, but they're still on level 5 at 3-2, which is almost unheard of in this meta, if unless you're going for a 1-cost reroll. But man, could have been better. Still, the round goes in favor of Padrino. 20 gold has been achieved, so meh. Could have been worse.
There has been absolutely no consistency in terms of player placement so far in the early game out of any 3 of these lobbies.
Yeah.
Sphinx was first place, in the second lobby, last place in the first one for most of it. Same thing with Putty, right? These results are all over the place. And yes, we're pretty early, but the way that this lobby is looking right now, it's still looking maybe more similar to the last one, as Noster is not going to risk it with the fortune game this time, but we do have 4 sharpshooters, something that we know not, we see in the early game, but we'll see fall off a little bit later. It gives you the option to keep the Sivir in if you get those items.
Yep.
But this Olaf with just a GA, so strong,
Yeah.
is going to take Noster down. Sphinx should be able to win a couple more rounds. Sphinx loves playing Slayers, was probably one of the first Slayer players of the set. Before it was always good, kind of, but like Sphinx has been
Yeah.
playing Slayers for a very, very long time.
Before it's been really like dominant in
Yeah.
the meta, right? Sometimes the compositions of course just dominant. Sure, everyone's playing him, but Sphinx, as well as myself, actually, I was playing Slayers from the beginning too. I just liked Olaf. I think it was just a very, very
A lot of people like Olaf.
yeah. Honestly, it's a very solid unit there. Just there's something that feels really satisfying about my carry cannot be CC'd, and I'm gonna get out of them what I expect every single time, pretty much. Like there's just something nice about that trust you're able to put in that carry potential
Yeah.
there. And of course, icing on the cake now is it just is objectively strong in this meta as well. Noster, these
Okay.
items on the Tristana are yeah, you take it away, Boop.
Okay, I was about to say I moderately like a Thief's Glove slam here, because of
Ooh.
what we're seeing, but we probably won't have that. I love putting Thief's Gloves on people that I know I'm going to sell later, because that Thief's Gloves will also be viable later. But we went the AP direction with the Morellos. It doesn't mean that we can't put something like an IE on her either, but with building AP, it might be good to get some more AP along with it. But we're going to go with the IE and the glove, the sparring glove. So we're going to get a little bit of dodge.
Yeah.
Let's see how good the Sivir is going to go. Sharpshooter cons always look like they're losing at the beginning of a round, which is a very, very normal, but it's the case is when you hit that mid round, right, where the sharpshooters are, there's like 3 remaining that the sharpshooters will probably win if they're able to get back there. Probably not a lot like Kale. The last comps did not have anyone who can really get into the back line, so I could totally see why Noster is moving into this direction.
Yeah. The sharpshooters, of course, before they get their ultimates online, they're going to be falling over. But as soon as that happens, is when the swing will start to happen in that fight. I talk about the items as well. I actually personally dislike the potential for the IE slam there. Or the Thieves Glove slam. I like the IE slam instead.
Mm.
because even with just the Morellos, you don't have to commit to more AP just because Morellos is a flexible item. Like we discussed earlier, it can be put on just the Sejuani. But if you use Thieves' Gloves, what do you have left? It's going to be a Gunblade. So unless we're full pivoting into like Mage at that point, which we could, it's the IE plus the glove for maybe Last Whisper is going to be a good pairing for multiple different meta comps, notably the Slayers, or even just the Sivir as well. Like Sivir can, if we continue with this sharpshooter route, which we might, seeing that Sivir performance there, it's still be a very, very good transition into the end game. We're going to sell Tristana, of course, because we don't want the Warmogs on her forever. That's not going to provide value. But we could find ourselves into like a Samira in the late game, or at the very least like a Tryndamere Olaf.
I like man, because that's the thing is with with the gloves being so good just as an item component, right?
Yeah.
I.e. Jeweled Gauntlet Hodge, right? Three, sorry, I can count, of the most popular items in the game. Oh, and Last Whisper, right? So like it goes into 4 separate items that people love. So committing 2 of them to a Thief's Gloves right now just feels risky, right? But
Yeah,
Khroen,
definitely.
the difference between you and I is I think I'm a little bit more of a risk taker than you.
I would say so.
I think my rank in all of my games will prove that. So sometimes it works well, right? Like in fighting games, it helps me out. But in TFT, not so much, as we have 6 warlords. What is Zan Syed on this patch? Is that the 6 warlord comp would have been amazing, 3 patches ago. This is so cool. Like, we actually haven't seen these comps come back at Fight Night Rising just yet. And they have gone through literal iterative buffs since they were nerfed. So this is very interesting, even though we are going to take the loss here.
I actually really like this direction. If Zan Syed was a lot closer to level 8 and not 21 HP below the 7th place player right now, that is a lot of ifs, of course. But the Warlord spat with the GA and the Last Whisper is going to be absolutely amazing on a Samira. That's the kind of Samira with 6 Warlord that can win a game. Sivir too is going to be amazing at this point. Can actually start to carry the way she's intended. But still, 20 gold makes it that it's going to be so long until we actually reach level 8 with this board. We're 1 Garen away from a Garen 3, like 3 Jarvans away as well, but that's not really going to be the thing that carries. It's just going to stall time, but when we get to the late game, you're going to need a lot more than just time stall. There's going to be too much damage on the other side of the board. We win now against LastKardax because he's struggling a little bit as well, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Khroen, don't estimate the power of Karen. My friend.
It's not even a Garen. It just has a Warmogs on it. There's no like Jeweled Gauntlet. If it was Jeweled Gauntlet, 100%, some other AP items like, oh yeah, Garen, you live your best life there. You spin on everybody and take them down, but I saw this happening here, of course.
I think you could make like a Karen comp work, right? Just 2 patches ago. Zan Syed, 38 HP. Oh, look, and 38 gold. Look at that synergy.
Wow.
I wonder the issue here is that like it's gonna be more likely to hit a 3 cost unit than it is gonna be to hit a 1 cost unit at this point. And the only one that we're gonna tier 3 is the Garen. I have seen people at this point like just carry these Garens for a little too long and they end up selling them anyway, right? So it's got to hit in the next couple of rounds. I think the only person I know that was like mega comfortable with this kind of play was Loco Doka with Duelist, if you remember.
Yep.
Oh, see, I told you.
Tristana.
It's the thing. You cannot ever count Tristana out, especially with Rageblade. But and it's tier 3, so
Putty's in such a good spot.
Yeah, Putty played the reroll Tristana, and that's the thing about Tristana too. You have the items on her already, right? If the game's like, here's 9 of them, sometimes it's okay to go that direction.
It's a Samira, but will there be a belt stuck on her? It seems worth it, however, to do so. But we're like on a long road ahead of us here. However, also look how many belts Zan Syed has. Spoilers, it's 4. 4 belt player. 1 for the Warlord spot, 1 for the Zeeks, 2 for the Warmogs. It's just an unproportionate amount of belts being given out today to these players. Disproportional, even. Better word for that scenario, but how do we come back from this one? Well, get a tier 3 Garen on the first natural roll there. Fitting in Samira will only be done if it's selling the Sivir right now. Otherwise, we have to drop another major synergy. I guess we could drop the set as well. The set's actually just there being the boss, but really nothing else. No brawlers or anything like that. No items even on the set as well.
So
Scouting out the rest of the lobby.
when I mentioned that Zan Syed had a hard game, like played a lot of hard games last week, this is what I'm talking about, right? Like every round was this kind of decision making, right? Which is like it's honestly coin flippy, right? We decided to stay the course. So if we win, then it's the it's just like one of those things. If we win, it's the right decision. If we lose, we can assume it's the wrong one. But this tier 3 Garen did get picked up and is going to get taken down by this jeweled gauntlet, i.e. Kale by Noster.
He's attacking so slow.
Heave ho, heave ho. Those auto attacks, those swords must weigh hundreds of pounds. I mean, honestly,
it looked like it.
If that sword was real, how much do you think it would weigh? Probably around that much, right? Because that stuff is heavy. I don't know. Awesome.
All right. Yeah, I think we are back. Thank you for bearing with us in that small delay here. Still on board with Zan Syed, as they have gone to level 8 now and are still maybe looking for the Jarvan 3. Now rolling past it, getting another Samira. In fact, one more until Samira 2 is achieved. What unit do they put in to round things out here? It probably wants to be a 4th sharpshooter, and with a 4th sharpshooter will be provided there with Teemo. A decent board, but still, lowest in lobby and HP.
You can have a really good board, right? Like, we saw a fabled Nico 3 get 7th last week, right? Which I still haven't seen since that day, but like you can have a really good board and still get some bad matchups at this level of HP. You know what I mean? So no one really getting through this Garen in the front line, which is actually really interesting. There's not a lot of HP based damage happening right now. No giant slayers to get through this Garen. So the other thing is no mages today. It's so interesting how the Fight Night meta evolves throughout the week, as opposed to it doesn't ever seem to apply to some of these other things, right? Because I think the players here are so variable and we get treated to so many awesome different styles that we're having a warlord game right now from Zan Syed, who won with Duelist, Yasuo 2, not even a Yasuo 3, and the items weren't even that good. And it's still, and we still won. So Zan Syed probably feeling real confident about a lot of things, and we're very close to Sivir 3, which is a, lobby-winning unit, even with those nerfs, right? We saw ACommonQuail win last week with a Sivir 3.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Sivir 3 is a very real possibility here for Zan Syed, but they need to win the rounds if we are to get there. That Garen did a great job at being the front line, but is it enough? Set is coming back, but with no mana available, and LastKardax set coming back means that will be a loss. Ooh, 1 or 2 lives remaining here. Having to lock for this Sivir is very, very unfortunate. I didn't want to sell the set. Honestly, I would have sold the set pair for that. I think set isn't really what's going to win this game. What's going to win the game is either a Samira 2 or a Sivir 3. One of the two there.
We have
Senpai wants all of them. The greed coming out here, just like we saw last week. Actually, we saw a very similar thing, wanting all of the upgrades.
Oh, that's very, very true.
From any of them, yeah.
Yes. So one thing about Zan Syed that happened last week, and I think a big debate that we kind of had throughout the night was, is it better, even with Nikos, to consolidate or spread power, right? And Zan Syed tended to spread the power out to potentially be more powerful late, but at 15 HP, right, you're not going to have that potential, and we aren't going to even get it to the Sivir 3 as we open up the entire day because of this. Now, remember when we said how hard it is to stay in front? This is one of those situations, especially in a game like TFT. We have a very close lobby again. That's why that first lobby, too, was a little out of character, because this is what the lobbies have been looking like most of the time, even in your games, probably. Like, they're usually moderately close. And so, and there's like a natural evening of team comps at this exact moment, so you can expect it here. Again, also just goes to show how crazy that first lobby was, that we had a top 4 at this point. LastKardax not had a great first lobby, but is having a little hard time now, trying to get into that top 4. It's going to be Sphinx in the top spot right now.
Yeah, great first lobby, got a second, and then got a 8th in the previous game. Now is at least dodged the 8th, but still a long way to go here, especially with this board, because this board has a lot of lack of frontline. We have the target dummy, I guess, for a little bit of power. 3 cultists now for the Galio frontline, maybe? I think that actually is a bit better than the Janna 2, and so yeah, we sell the Janna there. Roll for possibly a Samira 2, doesn't find it. LastKardax, probably not eliminated in 1 round. Could be though if the fight goes very, very unoptimally.
Okay, so what is going to be something that I like thinking about, right? Just like that kind of thing we did with Sphinx at the early game, is where do we go from here? Because now we're starting to top out, right? There are going to be comps that have reached their potential and then just need the game to end quicker, right? I don't think we're seeing any of those right now. Padrino is going to get eliminated. I think their 2 weakest comps on the board are gone. So this is every player for themselves at this point. Literally anyone can take the W here. Sphinx might be on fire, but we saw 76 HP turn into a 4th place in about 4 rounds last lobby. So again,
Yeah.
anything is possible. Nothing is solid just yet. You know, Noster hitting a Zillion 2 and ACommonQuail with a Sejuani 2. Those are potential round winners. So we'll see if this lobby is gonna stick up to it. But we just have a naked Olaf in the backline. You don't see that very often, but why not? You know, it's gonna keep someone else from that Olaf.
Yeah, the real carry potential is the Samira here, because 4 sharpshooters, we get Olaf 2 over Tryndamere 1, so that is an upgrade. Probably not going to do too much, however, though. The set being the only frontline unit here still can't do a lot of work, especially if they're able to get an ultimate off, which they will here onto the Aatrox, it looks like. Yeah.
Okay, so these battles are so interesting in the late game, because what you would expect is, oh, things are even, it's going to be, you know, head to head, and everyone uses their ults and there are 6 people left, right? And then it becomes kind of like a second go round, right? Who's going to survive that first battle so they can help win the war a little bit later? In terms of itemization, this is not bad. I mean, some shielding at the beginning of a round is always going to be beneficial, right? Maybe even against that Kennen a little bit later, but we've been seeing quite a bit of that Brazilian Kennen keeper strat so far. A lot of people seem to, if they have the opening, go that way. We haven't seen. Did the keeper comp win the first lobby?
Did the keeper win the first lobby?
It was two Slayers. It was 2 Slayers. Yeah. But we haven't quite seen the keeper comps break through just yet. But they're here. But they've been more of a top 4 situation. It's kind of taken the place of Kale. I wonder where that slow motion Kale is at right now. At 3 HP.
Probably, yeah. Kale being married to 6th place. We are seeing Putty with the Tristana is going to be still without a 3rd item here. We have the 4 Spirit, 4 Sharpshooter online. Samira has been found. No tier 2, however, at this point here. 4 losses in a row makes me really, really worried for this round here for Putty.
Yeah, Putty, you know, is kind of falling like a shooting star, right? Did really well. Won the first lobby, was one of those Slayer players. And I believe got 8th last lobby and is going to fall this lobby. Look how close this lobby is on the bottom side, though.
Okay. Oh, top 4 for Putty.
That close. Top 4 for Putty.
Yeah. Noster and Davidas both fall in that round. Noster in 6th, Davidas in 5th. Ooh, great top 4 here for Putty. Still rolling for the Samira upgrade. Has not found it. Probably should. You lost last 5 rounds. You should just sell the Yuumi here, roll once, maybe hit the Azir upgrade or the Samira upgrade. No reason not to do that, I think, because you're just not going to win against these compositions unless you get really lucky.
Okay, Sphinx hasn't lost in a very long time. Excited to see where this comp went. And we're back to some Dragon Souls. I mean, you can almost assume that Sphinx is going to be prioritizing Slayers. Loves that team comp, and Slayer's so strong right now.
Oh,
That Samira ult, that tier 1 Samira ult was nutty in the backline. And Sphinx will fall for the first time in about 8 or 9 rounds, I think. If you do, just as a quick reminder as we end this lobby, if you want to see specific POVs, just hover your mouse over the screen and it should be able to show you as we hit the Samira.
just hit. Putty risked it for the biscuit and was rewarded here. Samira 2 with double Zeeks in the IE is going to be so powerful there. That composition that they just faced there from Sphinx had to Samira 2 on that side, but it got bursted out by that Tristana too early.
Yeah, reroll Tristana, top 4. It can happen.
Yeah.
This is what you were saying earlier with the Aegon strats, right? Tristana, if I were to say like my favorite reroll comp, it's that one. I talk a lot about Tristana just because of I love the design of the character in TFT and what it offers in terms of stability. And I think it's just fun. I have always loved auto attack based carries, but one of my favorite comps of all times were, you know, when Ashe was in the game. But that Kennen 3 is going to survive. That target dummy, actually, a little bit of an MVP there, as we now have a top 2, Sphinx and ACommonQuail. By the way, there is a little bit of a funny storyline between ACommonQuail and LastKardax we'll get to next game, but we got our top 2 right now. Sphinx is having such a weird day.
Hey, I think you predicted it though. You think
that is true.
Sphinx, you know, scales with the day and kind of peaks around game 3, and it's game 3 right now. Boop, and Sphinx is peaking, looking for that first place here. You know Sphinx so well. It's so crazy.
I don't know if he wants me to know him so well, because I don't know if you know this, but I'm in your house right now. No, I'm just kidding. I'm currently casting from wherever he is. I have no idea. I was going to send them a shirt one day and never did it. And so we'll see what happens. About like a year and a half ago, so I couldn't tell you. But anyway, the Sphinx 32 HP at the top. We're about to hit round 7, so this is probably about 2 rounds. Static Shift showing up on a lot of some late game comps is just kind of an item that you can put on just to tag a little bit more damage and get some of that magic resist off. And this is going to be quick. Quickest lobby of the day. Another Slayer win. Sphinx will take the dub and peak on the 3rd lobby.
Maybe not peaked. Maybe Sphinx can do it again in game 4, because they'll certainly need that to win the day. Sphinx was bottom of the pack here, but with that win and with Zan Syed getting 8th place in that game, it, as you mentioned, opens up the whole entire lobby now. It's always around this point, or usually around this point, where I'm really excited to see the scores and where things are ending up as we go into game number 4. And holy moly!
This is a first time. This is whew. Okay. Fan yourselves real quick.
Right. Let's talk about this one here, Boop.
Okay.
4 players are tied with 18 points for first place here. The literal first time that has ever happened here on Fight Night. We have a 4-way tie going to game 4. Even with that 4-way tie, LastKardax and Noster, they're both within reach as well to win. This is like, Boop.
This is insane. I mean, I am literally developing. I love TFT, but I'm literally like, I can feel like some flushness in my face right now. Like my hairs are standing up. Like I just got so excited because technically all 8 players can still top 3, right? It's going to take a little bit of help for our 8th place player, but 4-way tie in first place at this point. I cannot tell you a time I've seen that happen in anything. You know what I mean? So the fact that we're here and it's this close, this last lobby is going to be insane. You're going to be stressed. You're going to be nervous, right? You've not been in this situation before. I don't think many people have. 4-way tie with 6 people eligible to win. This is arguably one of the most important lobbies Fight Night Rising has ever had the pleasure of having. This 4th one to decide the winner here. This is insane.
I'm thinking about it because, you know, you mentioned just Fight Night Rising. I don't think I've seen that in any TFT tournament in general. Maybe if someone in chat randomly has seen that before,
like a TFT historian or something.
Yeah, because I don't think I've ever seen a tournament where going into the final game there has been a 4-way tie for first. I think that's at least the first that I've seen. But going back to the point about why it's so hype, there's a lot riding on the line here. What play style do you play with here, Boop? do you go first to eighth? Because you gotta, I think, at this point, play a first to eighth style. If you just get a top 4, you still could just get fourth, not even get invited back for the next week, even though you're tied for first right now. Like, oh man, there's a lot of changing dynamics here in this game. I'm just excited to get into it and see what these players are going to be able to bring to the table.
Oh my god, I'm literally already sweating. Like, like I am so ready for this lobby because, like I said before, it was like there's so many different play styles, right? Like
Yeah.
that's why we have 18 points. As each lobby, I think, went towards a certain player, right? Okay, this lobby was Slayer friendly, so Sphinx is going to do well. This last lobby was not really a TFT kind of statistic, right? We had like a little bit of an outlier lobby in our second lobby, and Zan Syed was able to push their way through. And this is just nuts. Four-way tie for first place, second, and then fifth and sixth are within 2 points. Like, we're going to emphasize that a lot coming into this game because at this point, who wins this lobby will most likely win the day.
Oh yeah, very unless like Davidas or Padrino win. I think we're getting a little bit of some lobby issues, but we're gonna try to get those sorted out and go to a quick break. You know, give it time for you all and for the players to reset because this will be an intense one. We'll be right back here for game number 4 of Fight Night Rising. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone, and thanks for bearing with us for that short break. And we're all excited to get into this final game because Boop, the scores are so close,
So
and I'm still
close.
hyped about it even after that 5 minute break, man. We
Same.
wanted to, yeah, as we get into this game four, I believe they're loading in right now. Wanted to talk about, everyone or four people are tied with 18 points right now. And that's pretty low, as you mentioned.
Hmm.
The record is literally double that. It's 36, right? And the point totals right now are so low because there's only so many places to spread all these points. There's a finite amount of points that players can earn over the course of 4 games, and so we oftentimes see some very very low numbers at the bottom, which means that those points get delegated to players who are winning the majority of
Hmm.
lobbies right at the top. We don't have that here. We have a much more even spread of points throughout. Like, I would say, I guess the eighth is a little bit of the low end here, but throughout, like, say 7 players, it's very very close. So we have lower point totals. It just goes to speak to the level, I think, of competition as well here. It's just everyone's kind of on a very, it seems like, even-ish playing field right now,
Yeah.
which is great when you take into perspective there are players like Sphinx, who almost made it to the NA qualifiers, and literally Noster, who did make it to the NA qualifiers, like the top 32, even got to the top 24 best players in the region.
This is, I mean, the beginning of the day we said this is a stacked lobby. There are
Yeah,
some very like really fun Twitch streamers here. There's competitive players here. We have like the whole gambit of just TFT personality here. We have big brains. We have go with the flow players. We have re-rollers. We have actually no Kale players really so far
true.
today. But
It's not a couple, I guess, but not.
Noster got sixth with it. I swear, if you play Kale, you have like a 90% chance of getting sixth place. At least that's
Yeah.
what I feel like. But what Sphinx didn't do, there was actually a possibility of picking up 6 Elises by the first round, but actually decides to get the item off of the Elise anyway. It was a bow. I'm curious if that was like a more defensive oriented item or something that we could build a chalice or lock it on if we take the 6 Elises instead.
Hmm.
Elises, and but we'll never know.
I
I'll
think if it was the
definitely,
bow, maybe,
yeah.
but yeah, we
Ooh,
get a bunch of gold here.
I
A
like gold.
couple of potential fortune units, but Sphinx pre-leveling. Fortune units return. No third fortune unit though, so we're just gonna have a couple of keepers in here at this point. We have some good items, I think, for the meta right now. Runan's potential for an IE or GA or something of the sort here, and yet Runan's already made sword. Why not throw that on there as well? Gonna be a very very good start here. Something I didn't mention as well that I now is coming to mind as important is LastKardax was also competing in the qualifiers for EU, so a very very strong player just in the EU side here. I'm paying attention to a lot of NA recently, but got to give credit to the EU players here.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the comps is a South American comp that we see a lot, that Kennen comp, right? And then there's Chinese Nunu. There TFTs worldwide, and there are like really interesting
Oh yeah,
play differences. TFT, the expression of region, I don't feel like is as stated as say like some MOBAs or some other games, but you
yeah,
can
that
usually assume that an NA player is going to try to go for something flashy and fun. A European player might play a little slower, right? But in the end, what's really cool is that this is one of those worldwide games, and the access to it is so cool because it's on mobile as well. That's why I'm actually like really excited for these next World Championships, because we've had a whole cycle on mobile, and I wonder if there's going to be anyone that kind of pops out of nowhere from that scene when we get there.
mobile gaming is actually, quick aside, I was getting the itch to be a competitor recently again, but then I realized I'm a washed up caster nowadays, which I really enjoy casting, so it's not like it's a bad thing. But people were like, oh, just play mobile games in the future, and that's really kind of like true. And TFT being on mobile provides a lot of availability, playability to players, and that would be interesting to see people come from that scene
Yeah.
making it to potentially even the world stage. There was a point in time in NA where I forget the name, maybe you remember the name of the player, but they reached rank 1 on mobile. Um, Someone knows here in chat probably can tell me. But that
I'm
there
blanking
is,
on it too.
still very skilled players that can reach the
Yeah.
top of the top on mobile. Like
Hmm.
it's still TFT.
Yeah. Right. Um, as my guffaw is making me cough. Excuse me. Anyway, so Sphinx here is actually in a really cool position. So I love the Spirit Chosen because there are certain Chosens that I feel like I get too attached to sometimes, but the Spirit Chosens for me are easy to adjust from. And again, the skill expression in this particular set is not getting to a comp, is how you pivot. It kind of reminds me of the Elemental sets back in set 2, right? And so Noster now, who has had a day where we usually spend some time on the bottom side of the leaderboard and then sneak into the top 4, picking up that Tristana Chosen, which is definitely the most popular one-cost unit we've seen today.
Yeah, definitely. Very, very good unit. Will Tristana be able to carry this one to a victory?
It's close.
One more Dragon Soul proc? Yes! That's Tristana for you in the early game. That's why it's so strong.
One. Oh, that's so funny. It was Nature's BF by Nature's BF.
I don't think it was Nature's. Don't think it was Nature's.
Anyway.
Who was it though?
I don't know why that made me laugh so much. Anyway, back to the game. It's important. Bunch of spatulas. Man, the game was like, hey, 4-way tie, here's some spatulas for you. Here, let's make some things crazy. I wonder where they're gonna go. When I think of spat, I think of Nico. That's probably the first person I think of, and then Kale with Duelist. Vanguard spat, Warlord spat can be pretty flexible. What are you thinking?
Yeah, sorry. I was really invested in finding who this player was. It was Yukong's. I figured it out. Yukong's, right on a mobile. But what was the question again?
Oh no. I forgot. Anyway, yeah, it'll come back. It always does. Noster now. I think so. When it comes to re-rolling this Tristana, we've actually kept it open so far since we're doing the double Tristana in the corner. Well, that's going to change now that we have the Locket, which is actually a really good item for this backline. Yep. Like, for example, you see how close these Tristanas are getting to winning or losing a round. Like, this Locket is going to make it even easier for that Tristana to get there, ramp up to that ultimate. And yeah, we have some dodge on her too. You could put the Jeweled Gauntlet on, but it doesn't seem like Noster wants to commit just yet to that particular item.
This is very Aegon right now. Noster took notes, was paying attention, of course, in the qualifiers, and says, I'm going to do what Aegon does. It is making those lockets to put on the Diana, and because you're going to want a tier 3 Tristana and Diana optimally. She's the lockets, she's locket holder while you get the AD items on the Tristana. You can make Hodge, Last Whisper, i.e. things of the sort there. You generally want, I believe it's a QSS as well on the Tristana. One defensive item is still pretty good, but I'm excited to see if Noster is able to pull this off, because it is hard. I think, to do that, but we do already have 6 Tristanas with a Chosen, so if there's gonna be any time you do it, it is right now.
Putty top forward with Tristana not too long ago, I believe last lobby. So even if we don't get there, right, we could still potentially compete for top 4. But the unfortunate again, the unfortunate thing is that like top 4 at this point is not enough. Like a top 4, if all people at 18 points finish 1, 2, 3, 4, top 4 will not get you into next week, right? Yep. So top 3 is your security blanket. And even Davidas, who is a couple more points behind, if the lobby is friendly, Davidas wins this lobby, and we get some other placements that are friendly, can sneak into the top 3 as well. So a lot can happen right now. Zan Syed and LastKardax setting the pace. Kardax usually wanting to lose early, but is going to win early this time around with Putty and Davidas in 7th and 8th.
Yeah, Zan Syed, I think, does like to win early, generally going for those win streaks, say like brawlers or just anything that they can commit to. Davidas here looking for a reroll Yasuo. It seems like they have not purchased any XP here. They're very close to 50 gold. Could potentially get it here. And yeah, 3 gold. They don't even have to sell. It looked like 2 golds. They were hovering to sell the Wukong, but they realized they didn't need to at that point. And now we have 7 Yasuos. Still a lot of gold to work with.
Yeah, and it's not even our reroll round yet. We could if we wanted to. We have a lot of gold, and it's level 4, and with just 1 more Yasuo, look at the posture change. Like, we hit like so. This was really cool. So the reasoning why we rolled a little bit harder, I think 3-2 is probably where you spend a lot more money usually, but we are at level 4. We had 7 Yasuos, and this is going to be a higher percent chance of hitting Yasuo. And since we were specifically looking for one unit, this ends up working out. We put the spatula just to hang out, maybe taking some culinary classes with that. But the Yasuo should be pretty solid. It falls off a lot sooner than like Yasuo 3. Remember, used to be like a top 4 just unit. Not really the case right now. As you can see, it's not as dominant as before. Is going to win the 1v1 most likely, and then we'll see how long this and how far this takes Davidas in the end, because this is quite early for that. Not quite early. You kind of want to get it all locked in by this round, but we got a little bit more value out of it than some other people might have.
It still is definitely early for this to be online to that point. Those rolls were definitely above average, a high roll, you might say
haircut
as well, to get that. ACommonQuail here, get the perspective of, and they're going to be going for a Tristana right now, for Vanguard opting to do that instead of the 4 sharpshooter here. But Tristana, like we mentioned, a great item carrier right now, has the IE and the Last Whisper already. This is pretty strong.
Yeah, the most item agnostic character in the game at the moment is Tristana. I'm willing to make that call.
Yeah.
This Last Whisper, IE, it's going to be very interesting how they deal with this, because the way that TFT works is like you kind of see things coming, right? Like Keepers got nerfed before it really hit that level of dominance in that last patch. And Tristana, slowly but surely, especially in the early game, while they might not be winning lobbies, if something's too dominant in the early game, it could still affect the game in a way that maybe more might want to adjust. So I'm curious to see where they might hit her. Is it the fact that she is truly item agnostic, can hold those AP items, can hold those AD items, that makes her this good? Is it just those raw stats? We'll find out, but these Tristanas have been successful more times than not so far today.
Yeah, definitely. Because if you're going to commit to the Tristana angle, it's going to be because you have the direction to do it. And once you do, everything lines up perfectly, and sure, it's going to be great. We do see the Yasuo once again on the other side of the board here from Davidas. The spatula is stuck on this Yasuo. It might be a divine spatula, I would say, is a good potential too. Ooh, the Jack's actually getting killed by the Dragon Soul proc. Tristana is so nuts.
Tristana is nuts. People really sleeping on her. I don't know whether it's like I've noticed in the past too that units that don't necessarily have big ultimates will get slept on a lot because they quote unquote might not be as fun to play, but I think it's hilarious winning around as Tristana 1v4ing, right? That is exactly how I want to win. As much as I can go you know what I mean? And so this Tristana, all the Tristanas, I believe, are actually doing well right now. ACommonQuail in top of the leaderboard likes where he is, but ACommonQuail has been able to convert a lead into a win. So far, no one else has done that in any of our lobbies today. So curious to see where that's going to end up going, as Noster also on fire. This is looking like a pretty close lobby, which should be par for the course of the day outside of the first lobby that we had today.
Yeah, definitely. And just so everyone's aware, quick reminder of the players who are all at 18 points, because there's a lot of them. It is Zan Syed, Putty, ACommonQuail, and Sphinx. All those players definitely have your eyes on. LastKardax has 16 and Noster has 15, so those players are still very much in the running for even first place as well. A lot can happen in this game. 3 players at 86 HP, of course, as you mentioned, 2 of them being on that win streak. ACommonQuail wanting to protect that, and has the Nautilus 2 now, so that's going to be huge. Do you ever commit one of these vests to a Sunfire? It's going to be good at maintaining the win streak right now, but it will fall off probably a bit harder later on. Looks like that Olaf, though, from Sphinx is going to be tearing up this comp.
Sphinx with Olaf is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, name a better duo.
Yeah, seriously. Like, Sphinx loves the Slayer comp. I would say is as close to a Slayer main as you can get in a flexible meta. right? We haven't really had like truly mono comps and mono specialists since like Yordles and mech players, I would say. Oh, and Zed players as well. I think are probably the three most famous like main comps, with Duelist coming in a little bit behind that. But ACommonQuail should lost that last round. It's actually pretty crazy that how easy this Tristana dealt with that Yasuo 3. It was nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the Yasuo 3 did only have the one item, of course. See the other Tristana still available as well. We have a chosen Darius here for Putty. I believe Putty, we got word, cashed out a 4-loss streak with Fortune. Got 2 items and a Nico. The Nico could come into play a bit later there. But still, this Darius is dunking right now. Darius takes out pretty much the whole team there. Some great play.
Getting some donuts. Get it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry, everyone. By the way, earlier Khroen couldn't come up with a one-liner. Just like just like we were sound checking.
I have never had that question presented to me before, so I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just gonna say things. It's for a sound check anyway, so that's my job right now is just to say things.
Anyway, I'm really excited to see where this Darius goes from here. I'm glad that this item roll is on this round, right? So maybe next time we get a better one. Darius 3 in the correct situations, right? Say there's a lot of mages and the ACell misses the first ult on the Darius. You can get a streak going. So it is as inconsistent as a comp can get that could get you a win, if that makes sense, right? You need help. You need help
okay, nice.
To do it, but it can be done. Not with these items though.
Yeah, no. And a Darius did come through as well off of the neutral round, and it was immediately sold by Putty there. So that's why I was like, oh no, they're not gonna do that. What they might do, however, is go 6 Slayers here. Just needs the Zed put in. And yeah, 6 Slayer at 4-1. Very early for that. But it's going to be the case here. Well, who do we itemize? It is going to be the Tryndamere, and that is Renan's. That is GA, and now the Hodge as well. We do have an item Reforger.
Oh.
Not going to be used, but it might be... What will it be? Warlord banner? We can get the 3 Warlord online.
Yeah, but how is that temporary, right? Like how much value are we going to get from that Warlord banner in the end?
Exactly.
Tryndamere lives for a lot longer than I think he had any right to at that point in time. But one thing is going really well for Putty is that we're at 4-2 and at 50 gold, right? When you're at these, 4-1, 4-2 rounds and you find yourself at the correct eco, you're usually feeling pretty good about yourself, even if you're in last place. And you are probably going to lose a round or two after a pivot, as you kind of get back to that power to get over it. It's a 2 steps back, 3 steps forward situation sometimes.
It's awkward having to roll here without selling your chosen Darius, because you want to sell it eventually. It's the thing that's providing you 6 Slayer right now. And sure, we can drop down to 3 Slayer, but then again, you only have really like 2 tiered up units between the Braum and the Pike. If you are actually going to sell that Darius, it is huge right now with the Ludens and the Rod. A lot of AP getting a couple dunks off, and just the real hope is that especially with the Duelist buff now in, that the Tryndamere can just 1v9 at the end of the day, and it's trying to. And I think, oh no, the Sivir pops the GA.
Whisper.
The healing comes through.
Okay. Ult.
Tryndamere should win.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So even with the extra attack damage, the Tryndamere is going to win. That's the difference between 6 and 3 Slayers, by the way, right? 3 Slayers, that Tryndamere loses. 6 Slayers, that Tryndamere wins. Both had GAs. Interesting, Zephyr was very last minute. Usually you'll see players hold on to Zephyr at the very last moment so they can get the right person Zephyred, but is going to be a-okay with just putting it on the Braum, maybe just to carry for stats. We will most likely sell it a little bit later, put it on someone else, make it a little bit more flexible. Rolls past the Jax too. It doesn't seem like they necessarily want it, and I think that's a great idea. I think a lot of people will greed for a 5-cost unit for their Nikos, but when it's your carry, you got to get it online.
Yeah, definitely. I love the Nikos here onto the Tryndamere. It's what's going to make you, stabilize, and you need to stabilize here if you want to have a hope of going level 8 on pace here. So Putty in a good spot as of now. Still needs to consider what they're going to go after selling this Darius. Are they going to go back up to 6 Slayer? Maybe if they find like a Slayer, another Slayer chosen between like Olaf or something, could get that going. But Darius isn't really
Oh
the
my
one you need.
God. So the
It's a force of
carousel,
nature.
yeah, the carousel has offered 6 total spatulas today
Yep,
on this last lobby in a 4-way tie.
that's
The more,
nuts.
yeah, the more God is treating us right now. I love it. You know, the less like common things get, like the more like hype I think people naturally get,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like we've all seen Slayers win, right? But have we seen these versions of Slayers? Where are these spats going to do? Because now we get to do Elderwoods maybe, or we can get that Elderwood Annie going online. It creates so many more options, but these late game spatulas aren't as flexible. But we do have the force of nature. I wonder if we're going to get a couple of these because of how many spatulas there have been, and if just the item placement when it came to where they get the ability to enter the carousel, it was able to get us a second force of nature somewhere.
Yeah, I think it is likely. We'll have to see in a bit if that actually was the case here. We got a 6 brawler comp online from Zan Syed. Zan Syed definitely trends towards running this composition here. Davidas has got the Yasuo 3 items down. It will be QSS, IE, and the Divine Spatula. So that is what came from the spat there. Is it going to be enough, though? It's not looking like it for now. No Yone here to get the lifesteal.
Yeah, and that's actually what Syed built when he won that lobby as duelist, was Divine Warmog Sunfire Yone.
Yeah,
I
Divine Sunfire
believe.
Warlogs. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it was, yeah.
and so we're potentially going that direction for Davidas, who needs to kind of like take that risk, needs to yeet himself into first place, right? And I think those risks are a way of doing it. I mean, the comp did win, but it was an outlier in my opinion. So Zan Syed now, who has played brawlers for 3 out of 4 games, I believe, is going to get the Ornn in at a good time too. Something that a lot of players need to realize is, yes, sometimes the Vanguards are great to just sneak in, and Ornn can have a good ult, but you aren't going to get the item if you have 10 HP, most
Yeah.
likely, right? Unless you're already winning. So this is a really great time. At 60 HP, you're guaranteed an item at 4-6, and so we can already think about like where it's going to go. Let's keep some spots open for this Olaf. Maybe you're going to be a lot more flexible. You have more information at your disposal to use to strategize. And since I love spending money, is something else that I've noticed so far in the last 2 games, days that we've seen him here on Fight Night. Does spend a lot of money aggressive on it.
Yeah, the money utilization and that aggressive, the round before Raptors, when you already have like a set, 6 brawlers online, level 8, I don't think Sansei needs to roll down that much gold. Like what came from it, right? Just some pairs. Like you're not gonna get the Shyvana 3 right there, you're not gonna get the Nunu 3. So why are we rolling? We could just do that later on. I don't think we're contested either. I could be wrong about that. If they're contested, that's an argument to roll earlier on, but we're still not even close to that point. Zephyr could be here, actually. Zephyr or a ZZ Rot portal are the options I think here. Not gonna be Rune
Love ZZ
Ends.
Rot, man. I think
Yeah,
ZZ
ZZ Rot's
Rot
good.
is always like, whenever you like see the ZZ Rot, you're like, oh, I don't know, and then you use it, you're like, wait a second. It's like going bowling, right? You go bowling once, you're like, this is great, and then you don't go bowling again for 2 years, right? I feel like that's what ZZ Rod is for me. I
That's
put it
pretty
on
accurate.
yeah, I put it on someone. I'm like, why don't I use this item more often? And I never use it again. So it's just so hard to put the bow with the belt, dude. It like just feels so weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I want to make Rage Blades feel like so much fun, but remember back in the day the double ZZ Rot meta when
Oh
it
yeah.
scaled with level and you could like 1v4 team comps with the Beetle. It was quickly changed. Sport was like, let's change this really quickly, but it was there and alive, and double ZZ Rot can still be done, right? It makes the taunt a couple hexes bigger. When those units do die, they die simultaneously. And now, okay, so anytime an Executioner Chosen Kale pops up, a TFT player is gonna react. But we're gonna pass it this time around. Slayers
Ooh.
are the name of the game, and we get a duelist Tryndamere. That's actually really, really nice because the Lee Sin is already there.
Okay, reforge some items to get a BT on it as well. Jeweled Gauntlet now is kind of unfortunate, but having a chosen here for ACommonQuail was what they needed. Zan Syed hits the new 3. Somehow, some way, Zan Syed makes it happen. And now the Dragala just is going to go on the Tryndamere. Oh, man. I mean, it's not optimal, but that's what we're working with right now. ACommonQuail is very low in HP. They are one of the players that needs the lobby victory right now.
Ooh. This Tryndamere, though, changes the game
Oh, yeah.
for ACommonQuail, but gets targeted by the set. Say, like, set, well, someone else, we might be in a different situation right now, but at least we're still alive. And we've seen ACommonQuail. Remember, last week, a reason why they won the whole lobby, they were at 6 HP, hit Sivir 3, and then won, right? And you know, sometimes what you see on the right side is a little bit of a mirage in terms of power, especially at this point in the game where some of our lower players on the HP totals are actually spending more money and have stronger comps, where our higher HP players might actually be losing on purpose to try to get to level 9 or level 8.
Yeah.
Most of them are probably at level 8 already, though.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of rolling happened there for ACommonQuail, but not a ton of upgrades. Azir 2 is the big one here. It's really just all eyes on the Samira and on the Tryndamere now, and how much work they can do.
That Aatrox ult, though, was pretty big, but it's actually really interesting. Aatrox has that give and take situation where if you imagine you're playing, you know, a Blitzcrank on Summoner's Rift, right? And you pull in Zach or someone, or even a Tryndamere, right? You're actually helping the other team in that situation, right? And Aatrox can be anti-synergistic. It's that, again, internal balance of that character. How many times have you seen an Aatrox pull someone out of a Sejuani ult, for example? Right?
Yeah.
So a little bit of that happening there, pulling some stronger units into the face of some of those weaker units, which gave access to the Tryndamere. So I wonder, this Mure Mana on Lee Sin is actually very interesting. Compared to the blue buff Shojins, I wonder what the kind of rate of ultimate is.
Yeah, like it's a decent item on Lee Sin. Maybe would have been better served on the Azir here, just because Lee Sin's only a tier 1, gonna be pretty vulnerable in the front line. Huge pickup there on the carousel from ACommonQuail, though. Gets this not only the Sejuani 2, but also the Shroud on the Sejuani 2 as well. Shroud gonna be great versus a lot of comps in this lobby here. They should be scouting around, looking at where is best for that Shroud to go, though. And yeah, now the scouting comes through, seeing the clumps of a lot of the units where Sejuani already is, so we don't need to move. Still, though, all eyes on the Samira and the Tryndamere.
ACommonQuail might fall out of the top 4 if they don't win this round. The Sejuani ult is going to hit into the back line, a lot of crits into the back line, as well as the Samira is able to get there. We're just waiting for the revives, and ACommonQuail is going to whip Noster 11 for this round. We'll see. I mean, 2 HP means a bad matchup at any point is going to eliminate you. So we're hopefully even going to make it to the Nexus minion, as we have just a leftover spatula on the side. It's going to be a while before we can think about using it.
Yeah, stage 6 carousel. We could make work of it, of course, but we need to get there as well. About 4 more rounds to go until that point. And with 2 HP, any one of those could be your last for ACommonQuail. Need to really be on top of every single positioning here, even just like the Lee Sin, the Sejuani as well. They need to be placed in the right situations, because one wrong step could spell defeat. The Yone, the Sivir here for Padrino, gonna be strong.
Let's see what the result of these ults are going to be. The Yone going every which direction right now. The Sunfire Cape, D-Claw, Hextech Gunblade on the Yone is very strong, but not strong enough to deal with the Sivir in the back line. The Sivir is going to fall. Was that unit enough? No! As Davidas is going to get eliminated in last place. 1 HP for Padrino, 2 HP for ACommonQuail, 14 for LastKardax, 15 for Sphinx. 3 of those players are in that top 4 right now. Zan Syed losing, Noster in the top end, and Putty. There's always someone in 7th or 8th that finishes in the top 3 in this last lobby. Plague spoiler, and it's my problem child, the Gargoyle Stone Plate for ACommonQuail right now. If you guys missed that metaphor, it was a Gargoyle Stoneplate, it's like my favorite item for some reason. I know it's bad. It's like that kid who struggles academically and athletically, but I still love them. So Gargoyle Stoneplate, ACommonQuail is going to need to come to that same conclusion, and hopefully it'd be really funny if like you put it on the Lee Sin or something, and it gets an extra ult in and wins a round or something.
I was thinking about that precisely, in fact. I think it does go on the Lee Sin, because Sejuani gets one ult off probably regardless here. The Lee Sin, though, is going to be the question mark, however. So I think we dedicate the item there. A couple more rolls coming through, and we have 3 units that we could upgrade. Nothing is found, however, though. Let's see if they end up going to win the round, but on board here with Noster. 4 Sharpshooter, 3 Dragon Soul, 3 Cultist, Tristana 3. Usually the Tristana 3, we pair it with 4 Spirits. Noster not doing that, but still going to be stronger nonetheless.
It's funny that it's actually really interesting that the Tristana is just killing it as much as it is still without those 4 spirits, right? Like I said before with the Kale, right? You tended to see spirits along with auto attack based comps, so you don't have to build attack speed for them. And the 2, it looks like it's just going to be enough. But ACommonQuail literally hit both Lee Sin 2 and Samira 2 in a singular pack, and is gonna make it past Padrino. Are we gonna see another run back from ACommonQuail? That'd be insane.
Oh man, we could. I was actually really curious if they would choose to sell some units there to hit something, and they ended up doing so. I wonder where all that gold came from, because they couldn't have upgraded both. I believe there wasn't enough gold for that. Didn't get a chance to see the board either. But Samira 2, I definitely did see. That is huge. That's going to be the priority unit there. Noster now upgrades Swain on this board, but man, the new still just looks so terrifying there for Zan Syed. Zan Syed, though, 15 HP right now. They've fallen a lot.
Yeah, I remember had a 7-point lead at one point on the entire lobby, and so really falling off right now. ACommonQuail, I think, might actually win out at least another round. Yes, it's going to be on fire. Sphinx, our first person who was eligible for the win. I'm so sorry, Sphinx. Anytime I cast him, he always places lower than I think he expects. Poor guy. But Noster now is going to be leading the charge in terms of who is in that top 4 and winning, because we have 3 people at single-digit HP, and you cannot count out ACommonQuail without Lee Sin 2 and Samira 2.
Yeah, definitely not. Noster is one of the players that is not at 18. Noster is at 15 points coming into this game. It is
that's
Putty,
right.
Yeah, Putty, Zan Syed, and ACommonQuail, who have the 18s right now. But 3 of these players are on single-digit HP right now, so we might see multiple eliminations this round.
ACommonQuail is going to be on the red side. Noster is going to be on the green. Oh no, a lot of backline damage already as Noster is going to fall. But Noster is at level 9, actually something that we don't see a ton of right now. Well, we'll get there eventually for a lot of people. For example, Putty's still at 8. No gold. I wonder how close we are to 9. So Noster losing a little bit on purpose to hit 9 and potentially look at another spatula. ACommonQuail has a naked spatula on his board.
Yep, gets
and
it.
Will be getting the force of nature.
That is crazy. Being able to hold on. ACommonQuail doing it again. LastKardax was out in 5th, so ACommonQuail getting to a top 4 here at least. With that Fawn still very, very much looking for more right now. This is the story here, Boop. Can they bring it back? Can they make it happen? 2 HP and a dream. There is still the 20 HP of Putty, the 35 HP of Noster, and the 1 life remaining of Zan Syed left to go through as well.
I'm feeling the run back, Khroen. I really am.
Yeah, let's see it.
I have been wrong almost every time I've made. I am legitimately, I talk about curses. I think I'm a little bit of a curse sometimes when it comes to these players. Remember, Infernix, I think he's going to break the record. Get 7th.
Yeah.
And so Putty now in at the top 4. Very good first fight night for them. I like the itemization on the Aatrox. When you have some defensive items to hold, Aatrox is a really good option for that, especially with those Vanguard stats. Now it's going to be the Slayer bonus against everyone else. Tryndamere, man, you just don't go. You're going to go ahead and survive against a tier 2 Swain. I'd be a little upset if I was that Swain. And that's going to be an elimination. Dang it. ACommonQuail.
Again, Boop.
It happens again. I'm so sorry. I'll just keep my mouth shut till the end of the game next time. Putty. And I don't believe, because we finished ahead of Kardax and Sphinx, Quail, I believe, should be okay. I'm not going to make that call just yet. As
Yeah,
Zan
it's
Syed, Noster, and Putty all still in the game.
yeah, Zan Syed and Putty, the two remaining 18-point players. So Noster, I don't think can win the night, but can break into that top 3 still with a win. So still very important game for all 3 players here. Zan Syed versus Putty, the Brawlers versus the Slayers here. Really, really good Zephyr onto the Nunu.
Yeah, huge Zephyr, and the Mana Reave on the set is going to be really nice too. Unfortunately, got kicked into the back line. Oh, but it's not going to get anyone other than that Zed. We have our Darius going to do a little bit of jamming with his friends, but this Nunu is going to eat anybody. At this point, and that's the thing about Nunu, is just like Lee Sin, it's one of those units that can take down any amount of HP. It's like kind of like a balance situation there, as everyone under 15 HP in round 7. 15 HP is the base damage in round 7, so each one of these players has 1 round left, and a second Gargoyle Stone Plate given, this time by Shelly.
Rage Blade here, Stone Plate for Noster. Lee Sin having that, Lee Sin positioning here is going to make or break Putty's run, because not only is there the Shroud, but also just being able to kick off a priority target is going to be insane. We're going to see a lot of last second switching in other people's comps, and Putty as well, to try to track down those important units and follow them. The Zephyr as well. And that's actually like concerning here for Putty, because you're not going to be able to move both of those things at the last second. You can only really pick one. So where will the Zephyr just be default position? Or will that be moved and Lee Sin just being in the same spot? There's some decisions here, and oh, okay, beautiful here actually. Gets to do both now at finding another Slayer. Sell the Zed, free up the Zephyr.
It's people will sell entire units, even tier 2 units, to get a Zephyr placement. Like, that is what you have to do. This Tristana comp still in the game. It's Tristana versus this Slayer comp versus Brawlers. The Tristana is probably going to do really well against the Brawlers. So if the Brawlers want to win, I think the Tristana needs to get eliminated here, and the Tryndamere is a really great way to do that, but just so much damage. We have a Giant Slayer on the Tristana now too for those Brawlers, as Putty is going to get eliminated into 3rd place. Zan Syed is going to also get eliminated. Noster is going to win. What a crazy day of TFT. So no one at 18 points actually won the game. So I will see what Noster was able to do in terms of final placements. The math hamsters in the back are going. We'll see what the final result here is. In just look at how different my my man bun became throughout. This is how I feel. You know what I mean? This is what this day has done to me. That's how exciting it's been.
It has been very exciting. I think I'm pretty sure I know who wins, but you know, we'll just keep it as suspenseful if anyone isn't quite aware until all the scores are calculated and we get it nice and neat in front of us from our admins on the screen. But man, what a night of games there, ending with a Noster win at that point as well. That was crazy. I thought Zan Syed was going to get the win there for a while with those Brawlers and get the victory, but wasn't able to do so here. Still, this is, I feel like I've said it before and been correct, and this is even more of like closest fight night that I've ever seen. I don't think it can get any closer than this, honestly. Like this has to be the cap.
I know.
Close
I know. We've had like 3-way ties before, but never at the top.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's always been like 4, 5, 6 are tied, or like 3, 4, 5, but never at the top here. So we're just making sure that all the math is correct. And everyone did. What a cool night tonight, by the way, for this entire lobby to provide this type of experience for us as a viewer, as a caster. These nights are exactly why I love being here, right? Like this is where I'm like I'm lucky to be here and watch high quality play get this close. I mean, 4 people at 18 HP, and then to end that night, we hit 7-1 with everyone at 1 life remaining.
Yeah.
Right? And whew, I think 9 or 7 spatulas were on carousels, 2 Force of Natures, Nunu 3, we got the Aegon comp,
We got it
right?
all.
And
We
yeah,
got
we
it
got it
all.
all
Besides for
today. I
Kale.
mean,
Screw
yeah,
Kale.
except for Kale, which makes a lot of sense. And Putty is going
Oh,
to win by 1 point. Noster and Zan Syed will sneak in to the top 3 and ACommonQuail. I feel like this is partially my fault at 24 points in 4th place. What a
man.
close day. I mean, we have had days where 26 points wasn't enough for the top 4. So
Yeah.
this is actually insane. Congratulations, Putty. I'm sure we are going to get an interview soon. And if you're curious why Noster is in 2nd place, it is the better average placement.
Yep, they both had one victory, so it comes down to the second tiebreaker there. And man, I mean, both will be invited back for next week, but of course, a bit more money on the table as well. $25 more, not too shabby for winning a tiebreaker there. But man, a common quail there. Like 3 games, you top four, barely got a
The
fifth in a
most
game, two
consistent
points
player
below.
today,
Yeah, two
right?
points below first, and getting that fourth. Sure, you go home with some money there, but not getting that top three. It
hmm
means we won't see them next week, and oh man. But however, I believe we do have Putty on the line
Hi,
for an interview. Hello, Putty. Congratulations on winning
thank
the
you.
closest fight night I think we've ever had.
I was
I guess
clenching so hard.
yeah, I wanted to
We
ask
were
actually.
too.
Yeah, wanted to ask. Yeah, walk us through like more. You're clenching, of course, but just like the stress going into game number 4 with 4 people tied at 18 points. Like, did you? What was your mentality? Did you want to change your game plan at all, knowing that it was so close, or did you stick with what you're already doing?
It shouldn't have been so close because the game when I played Tristana reroll, the Aegon comp,
Yeah.
I played Tristana without a third item, so which was pretty bad. So yeah, I tried to get top 4 at least to get to the next week, but somehow I won, I guess.
Somehow you won. Yeah, I mean, oh man, yeah, the
We're
Tristana was
still
unfortunate.
recovering, just so you know. Like, that was
Yeah,
a pretty
true.
hype lobby just in general. Like, especially since the last round was all one, you all had 1 round to lose, right? And it all happened at once. That was so crazy. Khroen, sorry, go
Mhm.
ahead.
No,
Especially
yeah.
with
Go ahead,
with
go ahead.
Kardax going out too with
Mhm.
-25 or something. So it
That's
was very
insane.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah, really came down to the wire. Boop, do you have any more
Yeah,
questions?
so, is this your first fight night?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
it's
so
actually it actually is.
this is the 2nd week in a row we've had a new, person win fight night. So before coming in here, like, what was your game plan, right? Did you expect, to be
Mm,
here right now? How did you prep?
to be fair, my goal was just to get into the top 3 to qualify for the next week. It was kinda nice to actually just get invited here because normally I would just watch it on at work because, at the moment during Corona, I don't really have to do a lot. So I just chill at work and watch Giant Slayer series, and yeah, it's kinda weird to play in it, not gonna lie.
Well, I mean, it goes to show that you've been working hard and doing the right thing, right? And you're here now, and hopefully, you know that you belong here because you just won against a really stacked lobby. So, is there anyone that you want to kind of credit for helping you get here? Is it your fans? Is it anyone supporting you? Do you have I know Noster and like Polygon play a lot together. Do you have anything like that, or is this kind of a solo experience for you?
Um, Let me think. I mean, I think I started streaming around 2 weeks ago
Okay,
regularly.
yeah.
So, my community, if I can call it like that, is not that big, but, yeah, I'm pretty much enjoying it so far, and I've been hard stuck between master and grandmaster this set, so it's kind of fun to actually win the tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely, yeah. Being, quote unquote, hard stuck between master and GM, but still taking on, some of the best players in the game. Because some of these players competing in, of course, like the qualifiers for Worlds, and you come out on top here, must be a good feeling for you. And hey, best of luck on the
It
climb to even
definitely is.
further. Yeah.
Definitely is. Especially the first game, I was really hyped. I got this perfect opener with, Vlad early, so I could streak and didn't expect to win, to be fair, but yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Good transition from there. Made it work out.
Yeah. My last question to you is, and I'm really curious because anytime we get new players and I love just seeing how they think. What moment today are you most proud of? Like, did you overcome something that you're happy about? Are you just happy with your consistency in such a lobby that was so very inconsistent? What today are you
Mm,
most proud of doing,
um,
other than winning, of
if I
course?
have to, if I have to choose one thing, it's probably handling this quote unquote stress, maybe,
Mm.
because before coming into the tournament, I was kind of nervous. Uh, I told my stream already before the tournament even started. I was like, "Oh Jesus, please don't get 8, 8, 8, 8," and yeah,
Yeah,
just
good.
that's probably it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Congratulations, man. This is great. Crowen?
you managed it fantastically, I would say, getting the first, keeping that nervousness in check. I understand, of course, as a competitor, first tournaments, those nerves can definitely get to you, but you played super well. Once again, congratulations, Putty. Now is your time if
Thank
you have
you.
any shout outs. Where can we find you on Twitter and Twitch and those social media
Um,
websites?
um, just follow me on Twitch, I guess. It's Puttyx, just like you've seen without the TTV,
Yep.
and it's mainly in German because I'm from Germany, and you might not understand everything, but maybe if you're German and watching it right now, maybe just take a look.
Gaming is a universal language, my
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
You can look at the board, you can understand what's going on there and analyze that, I'm sure. A lot of players watch other, different languages or, of players, and you can still get a lot out of it. So definitely go and check out the stream. And once again, Puttyx, congratulations on winning, and we'll see you here next week.
Thank you.
All right, Boop, man, what a day. These
What a
games
day.
were,
Such a good day of games. That
yeah.
was good. Anyway, I feel like I watched both a really good movie and had a really good dinner before it, right? And I feel healthy and I
It
feel
just
good.
all came together just really
Yeah,
nicely.
it really did.
Definitely.
Sounds like a really nice guy. Seems like Germany actually coming online a little bit in TFT because there's another one like no name me know something who's been on Fight Night before. Is I remember him because he got last in the lobby in one Fight Night. But
Uh,
Germany, and so it seems like regionally that is getting going. But yeah, this was I'm sweating, right? I can only imagine what these players were doing. I mean, that was one of the more intense lobbies Fight Night could ever have asked for. So I'm
yeah.
just lucky to be here and to lend my voice and hopefully um uh, learn from these guys too, because I cannot wait to abuse Tristana once I get back from TFT. I'm so excited to
Definitely.
do what I saw here and maybe even throw in a duelist game because why not?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Tristana, great duelist, man. I'm still like, how did that work out so well? I know we went over it, so but still, that's a good game to look at if you want to see the scenarios where duelist can succeed, will succeed. I did also want to, I love kind of dissecting player interviews in a little way, but one big takeaway I think from that is the mentality. The If there's one thing that they were proud of, it's overcoming the nervousness. Because as a competitor myself, as I mentioned, like I definitely know how that feels. Yeah, being in that position, being like, having expectation on you to like, okay, just at least like don't get, eighth, 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 but wanting to get top three, but surpassing that, overcoming your nervousness and nerves, surpassing it and winning is just like such a good and rewarding feeling. So all that coming together is huge there for Puttyx. And I'm sure, I'm
Hmm.
gonna be excited to see them next week and what they bring.
Yeah, and at like 5 in the morning.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah, right.
Very,
Like
very early.
in Germany, right? Like
Yeah. I mean, they say that they
I
usually, like, watch at work, so I guess their work has them up at,
maybe,
these hours maybe,
but
but even still,
still,
yeah,
like
even still,
even if
it's
that's
late.
your schedule, it's still 5 in the morning. Like five
Yeah,
in the morning is
definitely.
the same everywhere, in my opinion, right? All of you people who run at that time, I probably respect you the most out of all human beings. But the what's really cool is just it's worldwide. Pitbull would be proud. Um, and and I'm just so happy that we keep getting what's really cool is we went through a period with I Like Hobos and New Mono where the same two people won Fight Night for like 11 weeks,
Yeah,
right? And now we've had a
new
bunch of
blood.
different winners and first time winners, right? And one thing that is very scary for any esport is a lack of pipeline of players, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that is just not the case here, which is so
Mhm.
cool. So just
Yeah.
very, very happy to be here. Today was a great day for
Yeah, no,
TFT.
I love that point, definitely, because I mean, I understand that concept all too well. Being a lack of talent, stagnates the scene. But no, TFT, there's a lot of new players or newer players. I don't like the NA old guard that are coming through, really showing their stuff and making it to be the best in NA. So a promising future for a lot of young NA TFT players. So if you think at home that could be you, if you get Masters, we could see you here on Fight Night. Soon to TM. Make sure to check on into that. But definitely, no, I'm pumped. I want to see a lot of new people in this game. This game is
Yeah,
dope. Boop, love casting alongside you.
of
But
course.
any final words before we send us off here?
I just want to piggyback off of what you said. This could be you, right?
Yeah.
You do the grind, and this is available. And not only is the pipeline of players really good, it's really awesome that Giant Slayer not only is supporting these tournaments, but also I am really interested to see what the write up for this particular lobby is going to look like, because those have been going up with the YouTube videos as well. We've been interviewing players and asking them their mindset, and this particular lobby was so unique, not just in how close it was, but in a lot of ways. I'm really looking forward to that content too. So that's what I'm looking at in the future. I got to go play some Tristana though. Like I am itching to to play some Aegon comps right now, Khroen. So
All right.
and always a pleasure as well, my friends. And hopefully everyone at home enjoyed. And thank you to everyone behind the camera here at Giant Slayer as well.
Could have said it better myself, Boop. Thank you. And thank you all here for watching. We're going to go jam some games, of course, after this, but we will see you all here next week for another week of Fight Night Rising. See you then.